Well, two questions. What's your backdrop? That's kind of cool. What is that back there?
That's just an image of a coffee shop, and we're live. Hi, guys.
Oh, hello. I mean, hello.
It's okay. He catches me every once in a while too, and it's like,
You did that on
yay!
purpose.
I was
You did
picking
that on
my
purpose.
nose over here.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to move us around and confuse people for a minute. Hi, guys. Welcome to the Psychic Coffee Shop. I'm Aeson Knight. And tonight with us, we're actually going to have a couple guests stopping by and having coffee. The first is Dan Stevens and his new book, Reclaiming Power. So, tell us about your... Let me get you there. There we go. Tell us about...
Yeah, there I am. Yes.
Yeah.
So, the book is Reclaim Your Power to Create Your Best Life. And it introduces the neurotrauma healing process. And it was, I'll admit, it was a bit of a challenge to put the book out, simply because it deals with the subconscious mind. And I didn't want people to go to a place where they either weren't comfortable or, weren't getting the results, because safety is key for me for what happened to me. But I couldn't just keep this a secret. And so therefore I put the book out, and I'm a trauma specialist. I had no intention of becoming a trauma specialist. It was strictly out of necessity that these processes were created when I had my nervous system dangerously compromised. And it took me 5 years to figure out what the hell happened to me and how to get my life back. And the result is the neurotrauma healing process that gets introduced in this book. So I'm very passionate about it, because dealing with trauma can feel like running on a treadmill that you can't get off, and you don't have to stay in that treadmill. And it's a terrible way to live life, in that fight or flight or being shut down continually. So I'm very passionate about getting word out so people can get the healing they want and not coping. The neurotrauma healing process is not a coping skill. It's not about needing to compensate or a compensation, and it's not trying to blow through it and overcome it. And it's not a medication. It's completely natural. It's quite simple, and it allows you to bring trauma, which is any negative pattern, chronic condition, or addiction, to resolution, so that you're not continuing to deal with it. So you can bring it to resolution, give the energy back to that time. So, yeah.
What I found interesting when I was reading through the book and your press stuff was you didn't set out to be an author either.
Nope.
You were a construction worker or contractor.
No, I was a trainer. I was a personal trainer. And even from there, when I was training, first I was a hockey player. I'm Canadian, I'm a hockey player. Well, that's just the way it goes. But I played junior hockey, played some competitive hockey. And so for me to go into being a trainer, personal trainer, was just a kind of a sideways step, because that's what my life was all about anyway, or the foundation was training. So I was a personal trainer. And when I was personal training, I really saw there that people's issues aren't just physical. That became very clear to me. And that's where I went into coaching. So I actually had a coaching training business, core training and development, and had different trainers working for me, and I went into the coaching aspect. So I did go to the coaching aspect from there. Yeah. So,
so what exactly is this neurotrauma healing process?
So it's a left-right brain process that gives us direct access to the subconscious mind in a safe and gentle manner. And it's not new. This left-right brain process, we have used this in a one-shot ordeal for a long time, for probably at least 50 years or so, but nobody has developed it. And I do not know why. I didn't know about it. I went in a mad search, and I, this is what I made the connection with. Through this left-right brain process, which is the foundation of the work, but is not the complete work. And that's where I made the connection to the wounded, hurt part of me. And maybe I'll just back up a little bit and start from the beginning. So what happened for me is I was actually doing very well in my life. I had my training coaching company, which is doing great, had great employees and making good money and traveling and living in a beautiful place off the ocean. And everything was going very well except for my relationships. And with those, I would destroy them, sabotage them, and seek intimacy elsewhere, and became such a pattern that I knew that I had to look at it. And, the common denominator was me. So, what's going on inside of me? And that's where I had to ask myself if I'd actually dealt with a childhood sexual abuse issue that I'd experienced in my younger years. And so I went to see a couple different groups, and that just didn't work for me. And I did a bunch of different types of counseling, talk therapy, Gestalt, even some EMDR and so on. And nothing seemed to really, get it for me or do much to open that up or get any answers or anything. So I was referred to this therapist healer. I still don't know exactly what she did. She did some cranial sacral and some body work combined somehow. And when I went to see her, I knew nothing of trauma at the time. I knew a bit about energy, but nothing about trauma. And she wasn't cheap, but a number of sessions in, she, told me I had an energy circuit in my lower chakras, lower region of my body, which made sense. And she said, when that circuit breaks, stuff's going to happen. And I was just so grounded, so doing so well in my life in all areas except for my relationships that I didn't think I could be, knocked up. That wasn't even part of the equation for me. So she asked me if I'd like to go for a home run. Sounded good to me. Let's hit a home run. But things did not go well. And I remember still vividly to this day, she had me on the bed, twisted in some different position, told me to go there, go there. And I was so out of it that I literally couldn't tell which way was up. And I came off the table and I was instantly scared for no apparent reason. And like jittery platelets and like this energy coursing through me that I just assumed it would just pass, just a passing thing, something going through my body, and I'll calm down and everything will be fine. And it did not. And I kept seeing her, but this energy my nervous system continued to rev out of control, and I literally couldn't handle it. And I was feeling unstable and fearful, and the inside, being the creator of the outside, my whole world started to crumble around me. And I lost clients and contracts and lost the sale of a business. And within 18 months, I was broke. And she quit seeing me because I ran out of money, but I think as much as that or more so, she didn't know what to do, and I was a mess. I remember literally at one point screaming at her on the phone, "You can't leave me like this." But it was done. So, and within 3 years, I was homeless. And, in that time, I'm searching like a wild man to figure out what the hell happened to me, how to get my life back. And nobody could tell me. Nobody knew what had happened to me. I was just totally out of control. And it took me 5 years to find somebody that could tell me what happened to me. And Hazel is now a trauma specialist. And ironically, she knows because she had the same thing happen to her. She had a healer try to force the trauma out of her. So it gave me great hope meeting Hazel because she was doing very well and had the same thing and understood what happened to me. So she was a student of Peter Levine and Bert Hellinger and so on, some really good, big hitters in the trauma field. So I learned how I worked as far as trauma is concerned and how the nervous system works. So it gave me great hope there, but I didn't get the healing that I wanted there. So I continued to, try and calm my nervous system and figure out how to handle this. And it wasn't until almost a year later, I think, that I saw John Bradshaw's stuff. And do you know what John Bradshaw? Yeah. Anyway, and he did the left-right brain connection thing. And through that work, I made the connection to that scared, wounded part of me. And it was, a very, for lack of a better word, exciting moment. I'm like, oh my God, I have connected to this scared part of me. And I worked on my own trying to get this fearful, scared part of me to calm down and not to be afraid and to bring it out of that trauma. And it didn't work. It was like an 8-month fight with myself. So once again, I'm looking for somebody that worked with me, and nobody did this work and nobody would do this work. I tried to talk counselors into it. I scoured the internet for anybody I thought could do this work or would work with me, and nobody would. And I found somebody literally across the street from me after a few months later, whatever it was. And she had done this work and was willing to work with me. And she worked with me for about 2 months. And within 2 months, I had what we call traction. And that is a consistently healthy and positive connection and relationship to the life within me. And through that, the trauma, the anxiety, the fight or flight, the revving out of control calmed down and stopped. And the processes that I teach now literally just flowed out of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that they'd never been usable. They'd never been made to a point where they could be usable, and they were modalities that you could utilize. So that's what I've done, and that's how they came about, not by choice, but by necessity. And I have to say, I don't wish what I went through on my worst enemy, but I have to say, I'm where I'm at now is really a great place. I'm really at peace with myself. I'm in a long-term relationship that has been, for lack of a better word, very easy. And I'm really grateful for what this work has done for me. And I guess if I hadn't had that happen to me, this work wouldn't have come forth.
Yeah, but we hear about this all the time. When healers start, working with the sacred chakra and releasing Kundalini energy. So why do you think that, the healers aren't trained? We'll use that for the best term for the next step, because, they can call it awakening. They can call it, soul revolution, or whatever you want to, what I call market label it. But for some people, it's very traumatic. It's very...
Well, I would say it sounds very dangerous and potentially damaging, because, I mean, while the end result where you got to maybe a wonderful, beneficial place, I'm just sitting here going, the fact that you had to get there that way, like, that's sort of, it's like going in for a chiropractic adjustment, and next thing you know, you're paralyzed on the table.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, good luck getting home.
Yeah. And, I'm one of the fortunate ones. I'm very fortunate. And it's exactly the wrong thing to do for trauma. You don't force trauma out. That is, and, it sounds like that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And we happen to Hazel, and clearly it has. But, I have to say that I look at my story and it happened and it happened, and it is what it is.
Right.
But do I condone forcing trauma? No, you can't do that, which is a lot of the reason that this book is out. So people can learn about trauma, understand how they work. And you can deal. And what's great about this work is when we work with people one-on-one, we don't give any of it. There's no manipulation, whether it be bodily or mentally or emotionally, none of that. The information all comes from them. We facilitate. What happens is we facilitate them. We give them guidance to their subconscious mind in a safe and gentle manner. And they'll never get more than they can handle because it's coming from them. They're never asked to do anything they don't want to do. They are always in charge, and they're conscious. So, in that, it takes people the time it takes. We can't say, it'll be, 12 sessions and you'll be healed, or you can't say that. It's, it'll take a person how long it takes a person. But if you do this, you can connect with that part intimately and give that part a voice, make it safe enough, create enough level of trust where it will unfreeze. And when it unfreezes, you can bring it back into this present moment where it's not happening anymore. And when you have that inner realization, the trauma ceases to occur. It's no longer looping in your nervous system unprocessed, trying to process it. So, yeah, I like you guys say, I'm passionate about this work because you can heal. And no, it doesn't go by forcing it out and trying and willing. It comes from inner compassionate connection. Creating that level of trust where it's safe enough and you can let that part speak, be heard, and give that part what it needs, whether it be safety, whether it be trust, whatever it is. And that's kind of the next step. We learn, self-love is a very misunderstood term. It's great to look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself you're wonderful. That's fantastic. And massages are great. But when you go inside and find out what you need, and you give yourself what you need from there, that's self-love. But it comes from the inside. You have to connect to that life within you. So it's profound and travels a long ways.
Mhm. Now you talked about after going through this, you're now into a stable relationship because your main problem was relationships. What other things have you seen in your practice and in working with this affect?
So the effects of this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my whole life is, I feel very, very fortunate. This work travels a long ways. And yes, I work with people, both one-on-one and in groups, to help them to heal and come out of trauma. But what I didn't expect with this work is when we do heal those tapes inside of us, slow those tapes down and ultimately bring them to a stop the tapes from running inside of us, it creates space inside of us. And that space gets naturally and automatically filled with what I'll call higher consciousness. And in that, we connect that life within us. And like Dr. Bradshaw said, the wounded child becomes the wonder child. And the wisdom that we have, the intelligence, the guidance that we have, the peace that we have, it is that surpasseth all understanding. So yeah, the peace that I have, the clarity and understanding, and just being able to be present with what is, it's affected everything in my life.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, my relationships, I'm in a really wonderful, loving relationship. And it's a kind of an interesting story. It's somebody I went out with in high school, and we had a 25-year break. And I followed the guidance of this information because I was down in the States when this all occurred, and it was to come back to Canada. I came back to Canada, and she found a Facebook message I'd sent her a year earlier. I was in a relationship at that time, and in and out of this very unhealthy relationship. And we connected and went for a 2-hour walk and haven't stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been, really fundamental or phenomenal in that way. You guys would appreciate this story. Annie, who's my other half, I was doing this work, working with other people at that point when we connected. And I wasn't going to try and get her to do it. And so you got to learn this stuff. You got to learn how you got to do this work. I kind of held back but she saw what I was doing and after a while asked about it and got interested. So I did start to do some work with her, and she has totally embraced it. Mm-hmm. And she's now a senior facilitator. But what has been really cool in watching her is as she's done her work, what came out is just for fun. She went to a tarot reading class. And when she was younger, she used to read tarot just for fun. And she went to this class, and the leader, the head person running the class, said, "You need to start doing this," and took her under her wing. And now she's this in-demand reader. In her first year, she did like 700 readings. And she's just like, "I didn't do anything." And that's what I love. It brings out who you are. It brings out your talents and your abilities. And so for me to be in this relationship, I'm living in this amazing place off the lake in a small town in Canada. Love what I'm doing. And, even almost feel guilty saying this during the pandemic. But we're feeling pretty blessed. And writing another book, the second book, which is the second part of this. So I'm doing what I love to do.
Cool.
I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, and here's the book. If we can get it in camera, there we go. I'm learning this camera stuff still. Nice. Get through it in a weekend. I actually read it in a day. A lot of tools to start working with, and looking at things that trigger you, looking at things that re-impact your life, and that type of thing. What are you getting from the therapists, the psychologists, the counselors that run across or connect with your book?
It's interesting, and because there's no question this will become mainstream. This will become a part of mainstream healing because it's just too obvious and too effective not to. But it's been interesting because the doors seem a little closed. In regards to getting this to be a recognized modality. So the people that come and do the work on their own, they tend to be, amazed because it's so simple and it shows you how you're working.
Right.
It's not that difficult. You don't have to belabor over this.
Right.
We say there's two prerequisites. The first one is to be open-minded because it is abstract work. In that left brain wants control. It doesn't like change. It wants to know and it wants to stay in control. And it's been in control for a long time. We're such a left brain, masculine brain society that's just been the way it has been for a long time. So to be open-minded is just to suspend judgment, just for a period of time, because it will show you, but just to suspend that disbelief and judgment. So to be open-minded is the first one. And the second one is to be open to the possibility, the potentiality that you're completely responsible for your life. This work will show you how you're creating your life from the inside out. And we talk about taking responsibility, but I want to be clear about when we say taking responsibility for your life, that's not blame. You did not, we're not saying you chose to be abused as a child and none of that stuff. But when you have a pattern in your life, an unwanted behavior, a chronic condition, an addictive behavior, whatever it is, the common denominator is you, because it is actually still looping in your nervous system at that time. So when you understand that this negative experience that you keep experiencing in your life is happening inside of you, that's the start of taking that responsibility, is the start of taking control, taking and reclaiming your power back. So that's what we mean when we say taking responsibility. So not blame. Yeah.
So basically it's, the responsibility for the behaviors you continue to perpetuate.
The cause of them is inside of you. Yes, it is not somebody out there or the economy or the government. None of that stuff. It's happening inside of you. So yeah.
So of course you're talking about this in a left brain, right brain sense, and the openness. But are there kind of the left brain question is, are there dangers? Are there people that are a bad candidate for this that maybe not, don't do this, or just anyone that you wouldn't want to see try to take on this work?
So there's not a person this couldn't help, but it's not for everybody. And like we say, there's the two prerequisites, and if you're willing, that's great. But it does take a degree of awareness, I'll say, because if a person is still going to stay in blame and wants to stay in that blame, that kind of just gives all your power away and disconnects you. The other aspect is somebody like I've worked with, a couple of people who are still fully in their addiction, and they may or may not be able to show up for themselves. If you're fully in your addiction, you're probably not going to be able to fully show up for yourself for this, because it really is a commitment. When we work with clients, we work with them a minimum of 2 to 3 times a week. And that's part of the reason why this is so effective, because it is immersion and you're dealing with the subconscious mind. So you want to, I used to work with people once a week, and it was like pulling teeth, trying to convince that left brain once again to let go. So when we work with people 2 to 3 times a week, we create a great momentum. And momentum is that level of trust. That level of trust goes way up. So, I have quit trying to figure out who's going to embrace this work and who is not. Because I worked with one guy, and this guy's in the book, and he's a businessman. He's an entrepreneur and very successful entrepreneur. And he had a heart condition. And he's a very left brain guy. And he came to me, and he had a heart surgery scheduled in 2 months down the road or 3 months down the road or whatever. And he was scared. And I honestly didn't know. I didn't really expect. First of all, it's a heart condition. I didn't know what degree of effect this could have. I knew that it has ultimate effects, but I didn't know how this was going to work out. And he was left-brained, and he embraced it. And within 2 months, he had a regular heartbeat and didn't have to have his operation. So, and that's somebody I really went, I didn't know if they were going to be able to do it or not. So who's attracted to this work is, like you talked about, coaches, counselors, therapists, people who have done a lot of inner work, and people who need change. So somebody is really, afraid, and really they'll be open even where normally they wouldn't be. So I don't try to say who will embrace it and who won't anymore.
Yeah. Kind of drop some, senior facilitators. If someone wants to get into this work, other than getting your book, what do you have out there? What are you doing? How are you spreading it?
So it's interesting with this, like you guys said, we have people out there who are doing things to people and they don't know what they're doing to people. They maybe don't know the degree of I'll say danger that it's posing. So with this work, we train facilitators, or we train people to facilitate, and you're ready to facilitate when you've done your work. When you come to a place of wholeness within you. It's not you do so many hours and you're certified. It's when you come to a place of wholeness within you. And we will know when that is. And it's, when you gain traction, and that is when you have from approximately 2 weeks of a consistently healthy and positive connection to that life inside of you, that's the first stage. That's the healing work is complete there. And then we go into the SRC, the soul recognition process, which is the empowerment work. And once you've done that, then you can go into the training. But we make sure that if a person wants to be trained, they have to do 12 sessions first before we'll even talk about training. So this work tends to choose who is to do this work. So it's not somebody comes to us for a job, it's like, it's probably not the place for you. But maybe, who knows?
Right. Or someone that's maybe already into like coaching and that type of thing. So they have some groundwork behind them.
Yep.
I really think it's awesome that Amy has took on tarot and it's kind of blended in with her work. Because, I'm famous for saying the first part of being psychic is psych, understanding the mind's work. And then the natural abilities. And we've seen that as a couple. Joe now reads tarot. He doesn't do it a lot, but he does. He carries his pendulum in his wallet, which I think is amazing. Now, if we can get his chakra bracelet to stop breaking because he gets so frustrated, we'd be good. But
chakra bracelet, that's fun.
Yeah, well, it was here on the table. I guess I moved stuff. But no, it's been this perpetual problem with this bracelet. Is literally it's like the lava beads, and then it's got the different color beads. Yeah, and I keep breaking the clasp on it. We've tried the magnetic clasp, I broke it. We've tried a lobster clasp, I've broken it. Like every time I turn around, it just flies apart. And I'm like, tell me what that means for my chakra balancing.
Yeah. How come you don't like that thing, Joe?
Like it does. It just wants to fly away from me. Like, nope. Not today, buddy.
Oh, that's very funny. Yeah, Annie does everything now. My God, everything from tea leaves to palms. And she just got a book on faces, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, she's just right into it. And it's funny because her sister apologized because her sister growing up used to poo-poo her and saying, oh, you have such an imagination. And, would you just relax kind of thing. And now she's reading for a living and her sister apologized.
That's always a fun moment.
That's an amazing accomplishment there. Because as you move into this realm or into this work, people poo-poo you all the time. People, prove it to me. I think it took Joe like 2 years to finally get it when I kept, and I've told this story on here. Every time we got to a certain spot in the road, I wanted to pull over and check my tires. Took 2 years for it to happen. And he's like, okay, you're right.
Well, there was that part of it. Then there's also just for the longest time, you're like, don't tell people what I do.
Right.
Like, I'm a life coach. That's what you tell people. Like, people can handle that one. Right. And I'm like, no. We're fine. Like, because I just went ahead and dropped it on the family. I'm like, if we're going to have an issue with this, I'm just going to drop this house right now. And he's sitting there like, well, no, if that was a good choice. And it's like, my family's like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Right.
Like which I knew would happen, but at the same time, he's like, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. This is a bad idea. Every time someone does this, it's a bad idea. And I'm like, no, you don't understand.
Right.
Nice. My family's a little different.
Yeah, your family's done well. They haven't rang my phone up 100 times for a reading, so I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, that's the thing too, huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Reading. I tell you, she's wherever she goes, hit of the party, huh? You guys know
Well,
that
the
one.
part,
Everybody wants to reading. Yeah.
you know, at this point, I just hand them cards and say you have to schedule appointments.
Right.
And I think that, you know, it's an important thing for people in this work to establish boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, as coaches, as counselors, as, you know, shame researchers or storytellers or psychics or whatever. And a lot of people, not just Carl, you know, one of our viewers, and it's actually our guest on the second half of the show, Emily, brings up Carl Lung was looking into tarot for scientific psychology ways, and he couldn't get enough grant money to continue his research. However, there's been a lot of influx of tarot readers into psychology, into working with the subconscious, because that's what the tarot works off of, is the subconscious energy. How have you?
I Ching, just an example, the I Ching. My God, I mean, it's been a world-renowned, you know, Eastern tradition following. So, yeah, it's not exactly new. Yeah.
So, when someone starts this process, what do you see as side effects?
So, what's really cool is when you do this work, and the scariest part of fear is the anticipation of the unknown. And when you actually, you know, people actually go in, it's like, oh my God. And when that shift changes inside of you, the outside world quite simply changes, because it's just a feedback system showing us what we're thinking, what we're believing, and how we're treating ourselves. So what's really cool is when people come back and they have set a boundary, and without any animosity, any fear, and they just, I just walked away, or I just said no, and they're just totally baffled.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And there's no, and they just automatically set a boundary, and not in a harsh way, not in a, and they're just like, wow, I couldn't believe I did that, kind of thing. And we are letting ourselves out when we do this work. We're connecting to our authentic self and literally letting ourselves out. And the only thing in the way are these erroneous and limiting beliefs that we have picked up along the way, or bought into, or are forced upon us, whatever, that are out of alignment with the truth about us, or higher self, higher consciousness, call it what you will. So as you remove those, you get to show up, and it's not an effort. You know, I talk about when we do that healing work and heal these tapes and these erroneous beliefs inside of us, what comes up is our nature. And our nature is peaceful. It is powerful. It is creative. It is healthy. It is beautiful. And, you know, that's our nature. That's not, and there's no effort there. So it's about literally getting out of our own way and letting yourself come forth, come out, be. So,
and be your true self, which is a lot of problems today, because we're taught to be yes people. We're taught to, you know, only say no if you have to, and that depends on how, you know, you're raised and everything else. You know, with this system and all, and you know, 12 sessions, that's 4 weeks. And then when someone becomes a facilitator of it, what health changes have you seen? Because, you know, we talked about the man that had the heart condition. Are you seeing also effects coming from, like, you know, chronic issues, chronic fatigue, RA?
Yeah. So chronic pain has been a big thing, and there's been a lot of that. A lot of chronic pain, a lot of people getting people off medications, and we don't say to get off medications. They just don't feel they need it anymore. So getting people off medications, chronic pain, relationship issues are huge, because, you know, a relationship is a mirror for how you're treating yourself. So a lot of people get into healthy relationships that haven't been the case, you know. And, you know, like Annie, what comes out is, you know, who you are and your talents and your abilities, your gifts to give. So a lot of times people are embarking on stuff they've always wanted to do, or, you know, find themselves going in a direction of something that, you know, really showcases them and their talents. And that just comes forth. It's not trying or jumping off a cliff in stopping something else. So financially, you know, finances is just an indicator, once again, of us withholding from ourselves. So it really comes out in all aspects, and we don't know how that is.
Okay.
But,
One of our viewers asked, is this a good book to read if you have large black spaces instead of memories? Like large gaps of time of your memory.
what
Or
I have,
probably put another way is, what's a good way for self-identification for, a good candidate, someone with trauma?
yeah. So what I've realized with trauma is we tend to, even with myself, I had a sexual abuse issue from 6 to 8 years old. I forgot about it for 17 years, I think it was. You can't forget about something like that. It was just so confusing, so overwhelming. I blocked it out. But what I realized in that is when we block something out, we can't block out that one little thing. We block out memory. It affects our memory. So a lot of people don't remember their childhood because they don't want to remember their childhood, at a subconscious level maybe. But you do know it's all there. Your body is nothing but memory, and it's holding everything that's happened in this lifetime and beyond. So when we do this work, what happens at a time of trauma is the right brain gets locked out. Bit of a generalization, but the bottom line is it gets stuck. Okay, I'm going to back up and explain that a little bit further too. So how we process things come into the right brain. Right brain is formless. It's color, sound, imagination. And it experiences the full picture of the raw data, we'll say, and it passes to the left brain to be made sense of, understood, and filed. If the information being passed to that left brain is too scary, too outrageous, too bizarre, too much for that mind to understand or comprehend, it rejects it and sends it back to the right brain. The right brain does what the right brain does, sees it, feels it, experiences it in its entirety, and then sends it to the left brain to be made sense of, understood, and filed. If it's still too much, still too overwhelming, that left brain rejects it, sends it back, and the loop has begun. This is why you keep re-experiencing something, re-experiencing something, re-experiencing something. It comes out as a pattern in your life. The brain's MO is survival. So it does not want this barrage of potentially scary or unwanted information, in its face. So it pushes it out of the way to the subconscious. Is it gone? Not at all. Still very much alive, looping in your nervous system, trying to process itself, trapped somewhere in your body. So it's all there. And when we do this work, this left-right brain work, it's kind of like poking a pin and, excuse the terminology, letting the pus out, but slowly and gently. So you can let that stuff out, and your memory, you will have, that will return. And what you'll get from this left-right brain processing is, first of all, understand that what we'll call higher consciousness is always there. So you have access to this guidance and this information always, but it's these negative experiences, these traumas that are keeping you from that. So as we keep processing more information, you're creating more space in you. More space in you means more wisdom, more guidance, more of who you are coming forth. And, I'm not going to say you're going to remember it all. I don't know. But yeah, your memory will get better, and you will get peace and understanding. And you'll understand why you're creating what you're creating in your life, why you're getting your life, and maybe why you're not getting what you say you want. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Great.
And then, other things to look at here. And tell us about your second book coming out. This is part one, in my view. Yeah. What's going on in part two?
So, like I say, this work traveled further than I ever had any idea it would. And I just wanted to get out of fight or flight and wanted to not be in fear all the time. And it took me to a place where that space inside of me got filled with higher consciousness, and the wisdom, the guidance that we have is phenomenal. So the second book goes into the SRC, which is the soul recognition process, which is the empowerment aspect of this work. So, because once you're done the healing, consciousness doesn't stop. And we use the 4 archetypes: the warrior, the lover, the sovereign, the magician. And those are just the 4 pillars of life. We all have those 4 pillars that need to be fed. And, one of the things you talked about earlier is, we're told to be nice and not speak up or not say no and all this stuff. And we're also, like we're taught to try to be one-dimensional. and we are not one-dimensional beings.
Mhm.
So when you get in touch with these 4 aspects of your being, you get to learn how to feed yourself, how to feed your soul, I'll say. And when these 4 spokes of the wheel of life, I'll say, are in alignment, the wheel rolls very smoothly. You get into effortless effort. And an example of that is your lover. And we all have that, and especially in this time, it's tough because we all have that need for touch, for maybe nature, and it could be a bubble bath, whatever that is. But that beauty, we have a need for that beauty. We have that part in us. So the lover, and an example of how your lover might be tinted or stunted, I should say, is sexual abuse. Is the prime example. If somebody was sexually abused, I can pretty much assure you the lover aspect of you has been stunted at that age. So you would kind of revive that and learn how to feed that aspect of you. The warrior is an example. The warrior is, I usually use working out as an example of the warrior, but it could also be, an accountant or getting your taxes done, where you got to get her done and you just got to get that warrior on. So you learn how to feed that part too. And we touch upon all 4 of those, and you get to come into empowerment and be who you really are. You do that by feeding yourself, becoming your own source.
Mhm.
You learn that you are your source. You no longer look out there for love, for acceptance, for achievement, none of that stuff. It's in here. And when you have that in here, it quite simply shows up out there. It's as if by magic. So that's the
We
empowerment.
talked about the warrior. We talked about the lover. The magician.
Magician, yep. Curiosity, playfulness, creation, magic. We
Mhm.
all have, and a lot of times that gets shut down, especially growing up in a house that's maybe very fundamentalist or very conservative or whatever. And no, you don't do that. You don't, can't do that. Do it this way. So our creativity, our curiosity gets shut down. Our magic gets shut down. So we learn how to bring that part and let that part come out.
Mhm.
And then with the sovereign, what sovereign means in its actual term is king. But this leadership is not by sword. I consider the example or the sample of the sovereign meditation. It is wisdom, it's knowledge, and it knows our direction and knows who we are, and it's inclusive. So, and as you keep doing this, every one of those archetypes, becomes higher consciousness. You get wisdom, incredible wisdom from each one. Each one has characters and characteristics. But you come to a place of complete wisdom. And the third book that we're writing is all the incredible writings that have come through me and my partner Annie and our clients, because the wisdom that you get is phenomenal. It's like came out of me. So, and that's just all the writings that came through us. That's the third book. So, but
So
the
that
second
was
one,
more of a channeled book.
yeah, that's just the stuff that came through, just inspirational book, no exercises. But the second one is Unleash Your Genius, out in 2021, goes into the empowerment aspect, so you get to become your source and put yourself back into balance and really let yourself be fully who you are. So
Very cool. So the book's at Amazon. It's at Barnes and Nobles. What else are you doing now, or plan to be doing after the pandemic is over, and we reach our new normal? And you're going to be in high demand then, because we're going to have to work through a lot of trauma. We've been in trauma in the U.S. since 2009.
Got it. Interesting. Thank you. Thank you for the heads up.
You're welcome.
It was really good timing for us because we just did a book tour down the West Coast. And my last one before coming back into Canada was in Seattle, March 1st. So we literally got across the border March 2nd, just before all the shite hit the fan. And but that's not happening at this point. So I'm doing stuff online, and I have one on October 14th, just an introduction webinar. They can join that one, and which is tomorrow. And I have one on the 28th, which is interactive if they want to actually experience it. So the one tomorrow literally shows you how the process works, how it works, and how you heal trauma. And then on the October 28th, we have the interactive one where you get to actually experience. You get to make the connection. You get to experience a degree of healing ultimately in that.
Uh-huh.
And second book coming out, and the second book is just a continuation of this one. I just didn't think I could take somebody from dealing with a deep-seated trauma to rising above the level of thought or spiritual liberation in the same book. So I had to separate them into 2 books.
I would agree. Well, a lot of work.
And I did want to ask a quick question there. So, because, and this kind of keeps coming up with the authors we've spoken to recently. So how much has COVID affected you professionally? Or I guess to also ask, how different is trying to do this work through, I'm assuming it sounds like virtual sessions instead of like one-on-one? Is that where you had been, was like one-on-one room to clients?
Well,
it's more.
Yeah. The funny part is when we went and did our tour, we let go of our office in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
And we went on our tour and we worked with all of our clients remotely through that whole tour. So we came back and we just kept working remotely. So I've been working with people remotely for quite a few years now. So it still has, people have, tightened up a little bit. But for the most part, how we work is the same. And working online, I know the first time I worked with somebody online, I went, this doesn't work. I can't do this. But it works fine. It's, personal and you get the connection. So, we work with people one-on-one online. And we're also trying to do more groups online just to get more people exposed to it. And like you said, we need more people trained in this. So if this does resonate with you, we need more people trained in this so we can fulfill and help the people that need this. It's very obvious and it's very natural. So eventually it'll be mainstream, but right now it's just starting out. Word's just getting out now. So
right. And if they want more information on you, your services, your trainings, Dane Stevens online. For our podcasters, it is DaneStevenS online.com. Of course, they can get the book right there.
There's also another website which is more about the NTHP, and that's anextraordinarylife.ca. anextraordinarylife.ca, and they can check out sessions there and learn more about the NTHP, the neuro trauma healing process there too.
We were talking about getting people more into it and getting it into more mainstream. What is your perfect student in 10 years?
I have people who come to me and say, well, I've done a lot of work and, I've already dealt with the, abuse childhood thing. And those people are great because it ends up being clean out work because there's still remnants in there. Because we have not been able to connect or haven't had a modality that connects intimately to that part and gives that part a voice. So it's really cool to see a person that I guess that has that spiritual awareness and that, has a degree of that connection. And because, it's like introducing them to themselves and it's phenomenal. And the results they get in not a very long period of time. And, I don't sell this as a quick fix. It's not a quick fix. It's a relationship, and a relationship takes time and effort, but it does bring it to resolution. So anybody who's really has a desire and is committed, it's great working with people who have, done a lot of work, because then it's just clean out work for them and they get to really come alive. But everybody does. It's just a different time frame, and there's different positives of working with different people who never had any of the exposure to the spiritual realm or any kind of modalities like that. Sometimes that is just, really a joy because they're learning so much and making this connection. It's all so new, and it's wonderful to see them come alive and be who they are. I can't say there's one. There's many.
Any modalities that dances well with?
So, one is Reiki.
Really?
Because what we say is we don't want people getting other information when doing this. And that's not a competition thing. What that is we want to listen to you. You listen to you. Don't take information from other people right now. You listen to you, because that wounded child does become the wonder child. And first of all, you need to follow and ask what they need, and follow that, and do that, and give yourself what you need. So that's the first thing. But if they can do something like Reiki or even massage or body work, where they're not getting information, but it's energy, they can increase the vibration, and that can be helpful. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you for coming on. We love you stopping by.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. Great to be here.
I look forward to hearing from you in 2021 when the second book comes out.
Nice.
Please do come back and visit us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and when Anne's book comes out, don't be afraid to message us. We'd love
absolutely. Oh, tell her you guys said hi. Yeah. Have her on. She's awesome too. Yeah.
Would love to. Love to.
I'll let her. I'll pass her. Absolutely, I will too.
Awesome. Okay. All right, Dan. Well, you have a great day.
Hey guys, very nice to meet you. Thanks for having me once again.
Not a problem. Very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, let's get us back up to equal. There we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. So we had a lot of hellos.
Yeah.
But yes. So, but yeah, no, that was a really great interview. It sounds like the book is absolutely amazing. And well, just the process sounds very much like something that's filling a giant void that was there. I didn't even know that was a problem.
Oh yeah.
Like to get and I'm still stuck there. I'm going to be stuck there for a few minutes.
Okay, let's sort that one out.
Yeah. Well, it's just so someone goes in for a Reiki session or for a chakra alignment, and just all of a sudden it's boom, lightning hit, and they're kind of I don't know how to help you from here. Good luck. Well, and then their life falls apart.
Well, here's an example. Okay. I used to do these biannual retreats, meaning I would leave every 6 months, do my normal disappearing act, and go do a spiritual retreat. I had never had Kundalini Reiki before. I had Reiki and some Cherokee Reiki and stuff like that. So, we're all practitioners. It's all our vacation. We're all playing. I'm doing readings, Reiki, massage, everything. And then we were doing some spiritual trainings during the day. So this practitioner, who I greatly respect, said, "You never come and see me on my table. Why don't you come over and get some Reiki?" Fine. I go over to get Reiki. It felt like when she hit my solar plexus that something was clawing from the inside out. And I am like, never again. Because I was sick for a few days there, and then stuff did start happening, and Facebook has been wonderful for reminding me, because this is normally the time I'd go away. Well, 6 years ago, of course, Dad had passed, and a year later, we sold the trailer, sold the extra cars, conducted our life. 4 years ago, same time my normal retreat, I went to Canada and was gone for a week, and I'm like, okay. And in between that time, I've learned Reiki. I've traded boyfriends. I upgraded on boyfriends. But there's been a lot of growth and a lot of change. And yeah, a Reiki session can hit something and not know how to deal with it. It's kind of, and it happens to when me and you. I can probably go back into my journal and look, but I bet when we first figured out that you're an amplified empath.
Okay.
This is the reason we can't argue. Because we just feed off of each other's anger.
Yeah, it becomes a back and forth competition. Yeah. It's I see your anger and I raise you more anger. It's like a bad game of poker.
Very much a bad game of poker.
Yeah. But and then okay, so I end up with this other question now is so with this being a known, it sounds like no one really addresses for practitioners. What do you do when this happens, when you're in the middle of a session? I would think either A, that's something the practitioner is going to be woo, I don't know what's going on here, but it's bad. Or when at least getting the feedback, hopefully, from the client of, I don't know what the hell you tried to do, but you need to stop like now. You know, like
both of those happen. But no, Reiki training doesn't give you that. It's like when I do Reiki, and the reason I do it so sparingly is because I may do Reiki, but it goes into the psychic side. So you're doing Reiki and psychic, quote unquote. My teacher said, you're almost at the level of psychic surgery. So notch that down. And I'm like, not happening that well. So, guys, this is a double episode because we have Emily Moot on, and let's bring her on, and we're going to talk about running small business right now. Hello, darling.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
no.
Can hear you, can see you well. Awesome.
Oh, great. I was having so much trouble getting my laptop webcam working yesterday, and I just spent all day just fiddling with it. And
Oh no.
got it working great. It's just you always have technical difficulties. It's like, well, I'm doing this like a day ahead of time, so I've got plenty of time, and I'm not like last minute panic.
Absolutely.
And I had my tea.
Awesome. But you know, you've been a great listener for a while, but we've worked together for years. You run multiple small businesses. I run multiple small businesses. You're a lot more than one of my favorite artisans.
Oh,
Two artists I will buy art from. I like their stuff. You and who done the picture behind you?
yeah.
Mark. I don't know why you can never think of Mark. You're just like,
Because I have to remind myself that he needs to like sign his stuff.
oh,
Anyhow, so what's going on with the art business? And then we'll start talking gamer world and branding and all this impressive stuff.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I mean, I gotta say, you know, my plans, like I had all these plans this year, and then the COVID stuff happened, and everything went boop, and that's basically I've been trying to like, you know, pivot. You know, I know how they have the say in the business world, you know, you gotta pivot, but you know, it's kind of hard to pivot when you're on an ice skating rink and you don't have any skates.
Very much so.
And there's cracks forming in the ice. You know?
I'm right with you. Last November, we got our happy planners and we synced them up for the year. We done the Facebook events and we done all that. And then at the same time, it was like, okay, around March, around February, I was like, okay, you know, I need to go see my doctor before festival season. And he was like, torch that. You ain't doing crap.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, it's before everything kind of went crazy. I had planned to expand the convention and art fair circuit this year. I was going to, you know, I mean, I was gonna try to get in pretty much as many local stuff as possible. I was gonna try to expand to go someplace out of state this year. I was actually thinking about maybe some of the larger pagan events. Because I'm starting to get to the point where my inventory of my art is a little big enough that I can actually have, you know, I can maybe, you know, risk getting like a more expensive table rental and stuff like that. Because up until now, I've been super thrift,
right,
with everything. As I get money, you know, all my canvases are based on whether I've sold something, you know,
right,
and paints and stuff. And I've slowly, incrementally upgraded my stuff, upgraded my work, expanded into more events and that sort of thing. And then this all kind of went crazy. And so I not only had to deal with, okay, I got to get more online now, you know, because I've been moving towards getting stuff online and stuff, because I've got that graphic design background. I've done web design. I understand how important it is. But there's a difference between it. I kind of like the contractor whose wife never whose house is a mess because they're always doing everybody else's houses.
Yeah, we suffer from that.
Well, yeah, I've always called it mechanic's wife syndrome. Have you ever been a mechanic's wife that has a nice car? No, it's always like 5 minutes away from disaster. And we have that with IT too here. Is that his computer is always the last one to get upgraded, to get reformatted, to get cleaned up, to
get organized.
It's kind of like, it's like he just sadly walks through the house and goes, "It die, fix." I can't work.
Yeah, exactly. So like my online stuff, just like little bits and pieces. I was tweaking this here, adding this here, just So I'm like, oh crap! Now I got to really do it. I got to really sit down and do it. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, we're all locked into our houses. I have plenty of time to sit down and get this all running and get everything. I'll have time to paint and all this stuff, and I'll just like go full creative. So no. It's just, I don't know what's with the energy of the year. Then I also have to deal with the mini mott is now full. I had to he went all online with his school, and I had to become full-time teacher as well. So that was like a whole thing. So I'm spending like I'm most creative either late at night or early in the morning after I've had my coffee and got the little munchkin off to school. So now my most creative period of the day is spent teaching and doing all this stuff. And then midday, I'm mentally exhausted because I'm, and you try and teach kindergartner, first grader area kid, all this stuff online, trying to sync it up with teachers. Oh, mess. And so by the time I get in the evening, I'm either just too exhausted, or by the time I'm finally hitting my second wind, well, I got to go to bed because you get up morning and do it all over again.
You have to get up and get ready for the next school day.
Oh yeah.
What do you say? We had to quickly pivot ourselves. Granted, I was already online doing readings. I've always done that since 85. And if you don't know what that year means, don't worry about it. Don't do counting. It'll be there.
I was born before 85, so that makes you feel better.
Okay. Some of us weren't.
No, I was alive in 85. I was here. I was also 3 and being, driven around in the back of an MG midget, but that's a whole nother story.
Joe, you and I are probably the same age then. So, yeah.
I think we're very, basically we are. I think we're like 7 months apart, if I remember, because we're both 82 and I think you're January. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like barely into 82. There's I've got a Christmas ornament at my mom's house in the tree. That's a baby's first Christmas, and it's got the little stroller. It's all cute. It says baby's first Christmas on the little bedding in the stroller, and it's got 1982. But if you look closely, there's a Sharpie over a 1 because I was due in December, and I was 2 weeks late. And so the friends who had got it, they held on to it for a whole year. With the little Sharpie on it.
Cool.
They were not willing to bring it back.
Well, now's a really great time to tell you your mother says she's watching.
Oh, my God.
One of the weekends when you're down, because I ain't going to throw this on Miss Mott, but when you're down, so you can get her all set up, she's actually an author and you're an illustrator of her book, and I want to have her on and talk about that.
Yeah, and I have, since she's on, I'll do the Dutiful Daughter and I'll do the quick plug. Sit Neighborhood Watch. It's a short read, but very funny, very enjoyable read, and it's highly rereadable. Friends of friends who have read the book, they keep going back to it whenever things are getting crazy in the world. And they read the book and they feel better about it.
Age group for that book.
There's really nothing in it that I mean, it's pretty much in all ages. Even there's only maybe 1 or 2 instances where there's a curse word in there, but it's censored. Mom doesn't write it out. She just does the little initials, and gives you an example. But there's really, I really don't think there's anything in there that's inappropriate for. I mean, I could easily read stuff out loud to Mini Mont, and we have when he's in the room. There's no problem. It's
right, but no, I was thinking, because looking at Neighborhood Watch, that's probably a 9 to 10 year old first book. Start reading together. Read. Yeah,
I could see that. I could see, somebody that age being able to pay, because the chapters are really only like 2, maybe 3 pages long. Each chapter. It's very simple. My mom used a really kind of like more conversational, simple, easy kind of coffee table book type style, and I really like.
Cool.
It's kind of easy read, easy to digest. It's almost like picking up the short funny stories out of a Reader's Digest book, but these are guaranteed all true. And
especially for West Virginia, honey, they're guaranteed true.
Oh yeah.
So what have been some of yours? What are you seeing? Because you're not just an artist and a super mom. You're also an illustrator for other authors. You also run a client service part. What have been some of the things you've seen to really work great for your client services, and things that people can be taking from this experience with their business?
Oh gosh, yeah, I've done just about everything. So whenever something pops up, it makes money. I tip my toe into it, and it just waters. And when it comes to like graphic design, and graphic design just kind of like, it's like an all-encompassing. I mean, it used to just mean people doing layouts, and that's what I was initially training for. In fact, I worked with printing companies and printing businesses and stuff like that. I did that. That's my first job as graphic artist. I was typesetter, typesetting things out, and printed the big plates for the printing press machines. Where then the company went whoop during that recession, and it just went serious, And then I mean, at the time I was always, the internet was coming to fruition about around in the 90s, and that's when I started getting into HTML and all that basic code, and I carried that into college, and it's pretty much just things of this new millennium, the 20 years new millennium, things have changed so quickly, so fast. And my career has really like reflected that. I started off with typesetting, and then all the printing industry started going down, at least the small business ones. And then things went all web design, websites just became like the biggest thing. You have to have a website. So I really got into that and WordPress, and taught myself a lot of that stuff to try to get the design in. Ended up working as a project manager for a web design company, making crap wages, but and it finally occurred to me, it's just like, okay, if I'm getting paid less than, because I was getting paid as a contractor, and I was pretty much, after taxes and everything, I probably went better off working for McDonald's. If I'm going to make crap wages and I'm having trouble keeping these jobs, I might as well go in business for myself. Because if I'm making crap wages, well, at least it's my own. It's pretty much just it's a matter of survival.
Right.
Because if anybody, there's people who needed a web design. Okay, I did web for them. If people, and that's usually what I did when I would sit down with clients for graphic design. I would sit down. Okay, what kind of business do you have? How do you run it? What are you lacking in? What do you need? And then from there, I kind of almost doing like a survey. I mean, a lot of times I feel like I'm a psychologist. for the people, because I gotta figure out, okay, what's hurting them, break it all down, figure out what they really need, because they may not need a website. They may be fine with just social media presence and getting their stuff, all their business information accurately embedded into Google, so people can find, because most people just need their name, number, active hours, the basic stuff like that. And then sometimes people come with me and they've got like a Vistaprint clip art that they're using for logo, and they're getting to a point where their business is growing to the point where they can't use like a little, public domain clip art. They got to have something actual. And so I have to take that and design something, basic. I mean, it's every client has been different. And I think that's why I've been able to survive as a small, freelance graphic designer, because I can cater exactly what people need, because there's no, like, I've tried to do packages and all that kind of stuff, but it's all come down to like everybody needs their different thing. And especially in the state, I mean, there was a client I had in Thomas, West Virginia, down by Davis, and even though it's a tourist area and they get a lot of tourism, at least not this year, but during the spring and winter, their web, their internet connection is spotty at best. And so, they haven't been able to, like, I mean, they don't even know how to use the internet, let alone what's this idea with the website. We need a website, but we just don't know how, because they've never dealt with it. And so there's a lot of people who just, I work part-time in a library, and I get people in all the time. They're coming in to use public computers, and they're trying to, nowadays, everything's going online. You have to have an account and do everything virtually. But to get an account, you need an email, and these people don't even need email. They don't know how to get an email. They don't know.
How much does that cost?
Yeah, and a lot of emails now, like Gmail and stuff, want you to put your cell phone number so they can text you codes, for security. These people don't have cell phones. Because where they live, there's a black hole for service. And they may have like a little flip phone, maybe. If they have a cell phone. Most of them have like a landline still, and they're trying to get an email, and they're just like totally clueless. They have no idea. They're like, and a lot of times, like, I deal with people like that for clients. And it's one thing about this state is that a lot of small businesses that that maybe you can find them on Google, because Google has somehow been able to find them and put some information of based on what its little crawlers have found. And that's it. They have a phone number, people call them. Maybe they'll have a Facebook page that they didn't build. It's something that Facebook's algorithm found and put information on, and some people put some reviews, and that's it. And they're trying to, come up with, but
I don't know if you've ran into this, but we've ran into this where we're trying to explain that, yes, you have a brick and mortar store, and that's nice and lovely, and you probably thought you would sell to the tourists that come through your little town. And once in a while, you'll get locals in, and you really have to focus on local. But explaining to them that today's world is no longer just who's locally around you. It's now global. And I had a client, and I had to catch myself, because they said, I don't know why someone from Arkansas would come to my store. And I'm thinking, I've got clients on 7 continents.
Well, like there's the antique store I told you about in Thomas. They didn't have a website. Occasionally he would sell stuff via eBay, and that was, so I set him up with just basic website, WordPress, because it was easy for them, teach them how to log in themselves and update, and they can post blog posts on like items that they have in store. So they did some different posts like that. Well, I wasn't doing anything fancy SEO. They were just a basic website, posting their stuff. And they got a call from somebody in, I think, Midwest, who saw the gun that they had listed and found it. It's like, that's actually part of my family's history, and I would like it. I'd like to purchase it, to have it back in the family again. You know, Civil War era gun. And they brought documentation, all that, and so they, you know, so this is a sale. They wouldn't. I mean, and they don't have a fancy store website. They just had a basic website. They're just posting blog posts about stuff. And and they got sales outside of their tourist area that didn't
exactly
have.
Because if people haven't figured out, they've set up West Virginia to run from about early April to October 10th or whatever the second Sunday of the year is in. And then after that, they expect West Virginia just to roll the carpets up. And in today's world, that ain't happening.
No, it's not. And I mean, don't get me wrong, a brick and mortar store, I mean, I sell way more money. You know, I do way more business if I go to like a crafts fair or convention and I'm sitting there interacting, you know, because art is very intimate. And being able to sit and talk with people and talk about the art and ask them questions and then talk, you know, that just, it's kind of like, I mean, selling art is almost like dating, you know. It's like, you got to have, you know, you can't just do one night stands. People are going to grab art. It doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes it's love at first sight. Sometimes you really gotta woo the person, you know, and that's always more. But the thing with the website is a storefront that's working for you 24/7. It is there 24/7. You're asleep, it's there, you know. Like I've got an Etsy shop, and I've recently been trying to fix up with my mom with her Etsy shop too. But so I've got my own website, but then I have the Etsy shop and I try to funnel people there. But I mean, there's times where I wake up in the morning and I made a sale through Etsy. And, you know, because, you know, letting Etsy, you know, their algorithms and stuff work for me. And you know, that's, and I'm even trying to look for other ways to kind of automate things, like maybe try to have it synced with like a print on demand thing. So like, I'm not having to deal with the prints myself and actually have a service print, because then I can offer maybe more than just a regular print. I could offer matted prints. I could offer metal, you know, printed on metal or canvas wrap and all this kind of stuff that I just can't do it myself.
Well, one of the shop talk things you were telling about was you had a customer in Italy.
Oh, well, I had one in Germany.
Okay.
And he really liked one of my designs, one of my paintings. And, but he wanted on like apparel. And I mean, I could spend a whole bunch of money, you know, having shirts printed and then ship something to Germany, which is crazy. Or I went to Redbubble, which they have locations in Europe as well as the United States. I uploaded my design. I paid, you know, he'd already, you know, like paid me. So I just used the money he PayPal'd me that I paid wholesale price in Redbubble and spent $8 instead of $50, you know, shipping it to him to Germany. And he got a shirt within like a week or so. Whereas it would have taken over a month. It would have been, you know, and I would have had to charge him like $200+ just for a t-shirt. It would have been crazy. But now, and then I had someone from UK loved one of my illustrations. It's the one where I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a fairy elven princess knight mounted upon a flamingo target, you know, and with a banner. And originally I'd made it into a birthday card that said happy birthday. Well, he just required a few small changes to change the wording. It was and change the color of the flamingo. Since it was an illustration, I could do that real quick. And then he wanted it huge, like a huge poster. So, but since he's UK, well, I just made arrangements to have it printed through one of these print on demand sites, and it shipped it. He got it within a week. Yeah. And that was great.
Yeah. Ours now in at least 2 foreign countries. And, you know, those services are very useful for small businesses, but it's getting people to realize them and realize that, no, there's services out there that'll do this on demand. You know, we're currently looking for a merch dealer for coffee shop merch and some Aeson merch. You know, a lot of people want a shirt that says relationships aren't microwavable.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. But you got to, you know, work with it and, you know, explore these services. Now, you also have a secondary business that you're just the chief organizer and project manager for.
Yeah. It's my husband's streaming channel. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that he's a vet, and as most vets, especially ones who are like, you know, recent, you know, veterans of the Iraq War and stuff, they have, you know, they deal with PTSD and stuff. And they don't want to be very social. They kind of want to hermit themselves up, you know, and that's not the healthiest thing. And so I keep bugging him like, oh no, you should get out and, you know, do more stuff with other people and interact and everything. And so we kind of reached kind of like a good compromise. And so I was like, well, look, you like playing games, and you know, you've got a voice for radio, at least I think so. And you're really good when you sit down. You know, you say you don't like talking to people, but when you sit down and talk to people, you're really good at connecting, you know, and emoting with them and connecting with people. And I said, like, you need to stream. And so I got him into streaming. I made him a little avatar, made him all the graphics he needed for it. I said, you know, I set him up, you know, because I've dealt with all that technology. I've done it before. I've experimented with live streaming with my art before too. So I kind of applied that, what I learned from testing things out, and set him up. And then over the past year and everything, especially with, I mean, talk about silver lining. It's always good to, like, in pivoting, when this COVID thing happened, I encouraged him. He just went full into it and doing a lot more hours and a lot more study and doing that, and had a lot of people, all these people that were laid off from their jobs and things were crazy and they needed an escape. Well, they could, you know, his stream was like the worldwide internet equivalent of the Cheers bar. And people would come in, grouse about what they were dealing with in Sweden or Germany or Dane, and the added benefits of it was people started hearing about my art through his channel, and then I started selling more art. Like all these clients that I've been getting in Germany and Sweden and England and all that, buying my art and purchasing it, were all people who would stop by his stream and then saw my stuff through it, you know. And
backgrounds are important.
Yeah. So
absolutely. Well, and that kind of reminds me, like, Aeson's been talking recently. He got involved with Instagram and he wasn't getting a lot of traction there. Like, he was posting all the same stuff and it just really wasn't resonating. And then as a fluke, he posted a picture of his dinner and, like, immediately it turned into a client.
Yeah.
And he's like, how does that work?
Well, one thing that people don't realize is that every social media platform has a different flavor to it and a different type. Like, Facebook is kind of a little more business-like. You know, people are posting long posts and talking about things, like, you know, I post my art or I talk my art and stuff like that, or I'll tell a funny story about Minimod, funny things he says, you know, stuff like that. Instagram is more visual, and Instagram is where people connect with, like, the authentic person. You know, it's like how they kind of get to know you, essentially. So through pictures, like your life, you know, they really, so like, I mean, I will post my art and stuff on Instagram, but sometimes, like, they want to see, people seem to like my work in progress or my art studio or what I'm doing or what I'm working on next or my little sketches or my ideas. They like to see that process a little bit better on Instagram than Facebook, though I'm way behind on Instagram anyway. And then And then Twitter, I don't have too much time thing with Twitter. Twitter's more like just a conversation, like being able to chat with somebody you like, people getting to chat with people directly quickly. And then from there, I mean, heck, there's TikTok that's rising too. That's almost kind of like more of like a Instagram, but kind of like a video. Kind of a classic video like YouTube, like giving quick little thought bubbles. I haven't really investigated it that much, so I can't go too far in it. But I've been trying to keep up with the different social media, because sometimes people will, want to get my advice on how to do this, how to do that, how to promote through here and there and such. And
okay, well, we've got some questions and some comments, and we'll take those.
Okay.
By the way, hi everybody that's come in. Nice
Thanks
to see
for stopping by,
everybody.
guys.
Sorry, this is a double book show, and we're having fun with it because I haven't done double book in a while.
It's fun. I love it.
I do too, because then we can pivot. So
Pivot.
yes, that's the power word for today.
Yeah.
MG asks, with running a small business, how expensive is shipping and handling, and how convenient is it to ship an item to a customer?
Okay.
I think with that, from my opinion, you can ship normally pretty well easily for merchandise, but you have to have a system. Like that pyramid for me is everything has a system. Work within the system that you design. And when you're a small business of one, design systems that you can hand off and go, here, this is how this is done.
Yeah. Like, one thing that I recently upgraded to is something called XPS Ship. It was actually a representative from the United States Postal Office from down, that actually showed up on my door, and he says, "Hey, I see you've been printing stuff through Etsy, printing ship for Etsy." This is the post office. We actually have our own, shipping program, and I'd like to, would you be interested? And I said, well, I am kind of interested. I'm starting to ship things a little more often, that it's more than just, it's getting a little troublesome, me having to go to the post office, grab the stuff, come back, wrap it, go back down and ship. It's starting to get a lot of time in my day on trying to streamline things more. And one thing about it what attracted me to it is that it doesn't require a monthly fee. And I can connect it through so if somebody purchases something through my website or Etsy, or I think I can even connect it through Facebook, I'm not even sure, but any place that I have, I sell things through, I can connect it. So whenever somebody buys it, it immediately shows up, and it's all perfectly organized. And then from there, I can label, I can print, pay and print for the services, and wrap everything and package everything here in my office, and then take it down to drop it off at the post office, or depending on the type of, if it's not first class, if it's like priority, I can schedule for them to pick it up even. And the reason why, in exchange for it not being a monthly fee, instead you put money ahead of time into it, and it takes from the balance so it's like at minimum of $50. So I throw $50 on it, and most of my prints, at least my small ones that I roll, or ones I roll up into 2 boxes and stuff, I think after the discounts I get through going through the post office, maybe paying $2 or $3 to ship, first class for some of the, for my small prints. I mean, for the bigger ones, it may go like up to $5, $6, but still that's a big discount. And so that's way worth it. So, maybe I may only have to add another 50 every couple months, depending on how things go.
That's something we need to look into for House of Aeson.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Donna Donovan, hi darlings, says the Instagram trick is you must post 3 to 4 posts a work week. right now I'm editing out some of my daily stuff because we're posting 6 and 7 times a day, because I've got to hit every time zone with a morning post. That's part of my social media plan. How often do you post? What's your thoughts on posting?
I've always been a don't stress out over it.
Mm-hmm.
Post when you have something you feel's worthwhile posting. If you can get that up to 3 times a week, hey, great. If you can only get it once a week or once every couple days, that's fine. It almost seems like Instagram. It's like when people are more likely to follow your account if they go look at your account and they see your wall of all these little squares, and they and that gives them like a first kind of impression of what, so you want to be kind of consistent in what you do. So at least have a pattern, or at least kind of, so people kind of get the gist of who you are by looking at that, and then they'll follow you. Another thing is, I found is look at what the social media companies are competing over. And that's usually what you want to do. Like when you're just doing posts on your page for Facebook, well, Facebook hides those all the time and forces you to, because they want you to buy ad space and ever to promote it, which is almost always just a waste of money, flush you down the toilet. But the one thing that Facebook, Instagram, even though Facebook owns Instagram, they're still competing with each other for some weird, really way. TikTok, YouTube even is now, if you notice, they're all doing this. They're all doing these little, in Snapchat, they do these little short, like little thumbnails at the top, that they don't last very long. You can either put like a slide, like a quick slideshow, or a little video of you talking about something or that sort of thing, and they only last for like 24 hours. Well, they're competing over putting in that. So if you post using those features, whenever there's a new feature that a social media adds, jump on that, because they're trying to promote it, they're trying to get people to use it, so they're not going to hide it. So you're more likely people are going to see it if you post it up there.
Right. So. And that's something I'm looking into, is to do stories. Also, I find looking at people that are major social media people. Here's a great example. I'll look at how Jeffree Star is running his social media. I'm looking at how Jeffree Star, he's a makeup person. He's not even in my industry. Looking at how they're doing it, because they're known as influencers. And that's going to tell me where their raw stuff is. Because
it's all about entertainment. You know, people look at you and they look at your stuff because they want to. They like, it gives them a little distraction, and they get to know some, it's like their window into who you are. And I mean, I've the problem with I've been following the social media stuff since like early 2000s, maybe even before that. And I remember back in the days of the forum boards, in the AOL chat rooms.
But you bring up a good point with the forum boards. Reddit.
Yeah, Reddit.
Literally, Reddit is this big undercurrent that's been around forever. I've never really looked into it until recently. And it's like, if you're trying to figure out something that you can do to create cash, go into the Reddit and just search things that you do as hobbies, like gaming. The gaming industry is huge right now. Art, handicrafts, crochet, which I know your mom does. You don't have to be Superman about it. Planning stuff is huge. All these little niche things, and people are going back to handmade.
It's a really big movement. That's one thing I'm trying to push with my mom's work, is like with her stuff, like with her bigger blankets. I've been keywording it on her Etsy shop as log cabin living, and handmade, heirloom, we named her business Heather's Heirlooms. So it's like you're buying an heirloom to pass through the family, and all, it's all about the kind of branding, kind of get people to feel, what you're doing. And like, I mean, every couple months, Google changes its algorithm, Facebook changes its algorithm, Instagram messes with things. I mean, TikTok mixes with things. Twitter is constantly messing with things so much nobody has any idea what's going on. and so it's like you can't all those. If you see somebody who's like, I've got the perfect, they're trying to sell you the absolute perfect formula to post that will guarantee to get 5 million followers and all this kind of stuff. They're a snake oil salesman because it's constantly changing. And there's a good chance by the time you give them your couple $100 or whatever like that, it's changed and they've hightailed it and disappeared. So,
right. And they'll be selling a new product next week.
Yeah.
But I would point out that kind of going backwards a little bit on Reddit, what I've always loved it for is Reddit is a very organized community. Mm-hmm. That's what I've always found. And kind of where we got started on the Reddit conversation was I was pointing out that like the two really good uses for Reddit is with it being such a structured community, you end up inadvertently finding things that make great keywords and hashtags. Mm-hmm. But you can also find just if you're regardless of what your industry is, and I mean that in the most literal sense, like
there's a subreddit for everything. Yeah,
there's a subreddit for everything. It's a great place to get content ideas, to start seeing like the questions people are legitimately asking about that field or that topic or that subject, or the problems people are having in that field, in that topic, in that subject. And that's where our conversation got started is, I kind of take a topic and I go through Reddit and I'm like, let me go through and see all the groups and all the postings and what they're relating to. And, you can make some weird connections there that, oh, not exactly what you're doing, but over here is a whole community that's effectively asking this.
Yeah.
Or looking like, bridge these two groups together.
Well, it's like Reddit doesn't nearly have it set up as way forum boards were in the day, but like, mm-hmm. I mean, heck, forum boards still exist. Mm-hmm. And there's one artist that I followed. Well, I still follow her, but I get like ideas and information. She was really good at tutorials and stuff, and trying to learn the stuff the gaps that kind of escaped me in college. And she used to be big into pet portraiture, and her family were like, they bred and showed like miniature greyhounds, and so she was always on the dog forums, AKC dog forums, talking about dogs. Well, in the old days of the forums, and they're still true, you have that little signature area, whenever time you post, and so in her she wouldn't like advertise herself. All she would do is in her signature, she would have a link to her website and her gallery, just a little thing like that. But she just talk about dogs and her, all of that. And she got tons of people just passively like, contacting her, and, mm-hmm. and that's the thing is like, it seems like the majority of my followers or fans or customers or people who bought my work, it's all been through like casual, friendly, connections that I've made at like other things that weren't me trying to, that I wasn't advertising. I was mm-hmm. just being me, normal self, talking with people, making friends. And then I've given them my business card. We trade business cards and stuff. And then later they realize, oh, I need a portrait of such and such. Let's, it'd be really nice. We just moved and I need something on the wall, and then they contact me on Facebook, and because I went to the Pagan Pride Day event and it was very small, not a lot of people there, things like that. I didn't expect to make any money. I actually did, make up, the cost that would for me to go there. So that's still good. But I see the events in general as like cheap advertising essentially. And while I was there, I ended up talking with some folks that they breed and show champion dogs, and they want a large portrait of their dog. And so I may get a large commission in the next month or so once they're ready. So, you know, you just gotta be yourself. You got to get yourself out there, even if it's right now it's kind of online only, but still find ways to like get yourself an authentic way where you're not pushing things on people. Because people, if they feel like they're being pressured, then they get up in their shell. But if they're just,
well, an example of that, and this is something that I've been trying to do, but it's hard for me to get it done, you know, because I've got to put it into my head how I want it. Is you painting? You were streaming painting a while ago. I'm sure you're still doing it.
Well, haven't been recently just because things have been crazy, but my plan is to get back into it.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is something you're already doing. You know, just throwing it up on video or turning the video camera on. My Ipsy box unboxings, I was already wearing makeup. I was already, you know, one of our listeners recommended and actually shared stuff, and I'm like, I like this shit. I'm ordering it. I'm filming it. And yeah, the video will be out or maybe out for Patreon already. But yeah, those are going out. And MG asked a question. She says it might be a stupid one. Do you need a business license or something to sell things online? If you sell, and it depends on the state. In West Virginia, it's over $600. You have to have a business license. It depends on where you're at.
I went for the longest time. You know, the first couple years, like I see, I've been here about 4 years up in the house I am in Clarksburg, is where we're located. And that's basically how long my career, my art part of my career, the fine art part of my career was, because we had moved, major death in my family, 2 major deaths in my family, and moved, and this was all in the course of like a month, 2 months, you know, all packed in the, you know, so I was a little bit on edge, you know, and they're in the house, boxes everywhere, you know, that's, you know, trying to figure out how we're going to unpack this, what I'm going to read out, what I'm going to, you know, and I was just like, I got to do something creative. I can't, you know, I got to do something. And so I rummaged through boxes and I found 2 paints, like an orange, red, and a brown. And I found like 1 brush and I think like 1 little scrapey thingy, and I found a knife. And I managed to find like an 8x10, and I whipped up something quick. I just put out all my kind of like feelings, anger, frustration, all that negativity that I've just been balling up, and just splurted it out on the page. And it's one of my best sellers.
Is it the water dragon?
No, it's not the water dragon. The water dragon was second.
Oh,
the second thing I did. The first thing it's that mean old like orc symbol where it go rah, you know. It's pretty much all red, because pretty much red, yellow, and like burnt umber was all I had.
Right.
And so I just did that symbol because it's something symbol I knew from, like, you know, and I get tons of people, because Warhammer 40K is huge in Europe, and they love that. And so there are constantly people buying it on shirts, or they'll order a print and all this kind of stuff, because they just, you know, some guy got it like, you know, large. Somebody in the Czech Republic bought it on a clock. It's in somebody's room, this angry orc. No, the second one I did was the water dragon. Because once I got all that frustration and anger out, then I was like, okay, zen, you know, calm, you know, and I love koi, and I love, you know, and I was kind of experimenting with playing with water, and I love dragons. I've always, you know, and so if my mom's still in the chat, she can attest, you know, I'm drawing dragons since I was young. And I just kind of combined those two. I just thought it would be really cool, you know, and it was kind of also going with the tapping into the story, the Chinese mythology story, about the golden koi and all that, with the dragon and the koi, and that's when I hit a nerve. That's kind of when I realized that I need to pursue this more, because it's like the art part. I mean, the graphic design business, it makes me money. It's good and everything, but I realized that I will overstress myself out and I will over anxiety, I will overwhelm myself if I'm nothing but graphic design. I got to have that creative outlet, and and that's it. And that's kind of, and I've just been flowing. Things been slowly building, and I've been adding this, my art when I have time for art, graphic design when I get clients, and it's been a balance. It's basically been whenever
balance that, because like I do jewelry design and I do quilting and I do these, and these are all hobbies. Well, I had someone buy a 9-pack that I had whipped up in like a night just because I had a bunch of fabric and I needed time at the sewing machine. They paid like $900 for 4 hours work and $5 in fabric. Yeah.
But keep in mind something that really wise thing. One of the wisest things I heard from good friends of mine. They're like my first clients ever. they ran a T-shirt business, go to different cons, and they made a really good point. Is that when someone buys your work, it doesn't matter how you may think, oh, I just whipped this up real quick, but what they're buying is not the time you spent on it. They're buying all the years before, any kind of college, any kind of training, all the, even if you're a hobbyist, even all the years that you've been tinkering at it, is culminated with this thing that you got quickly done, but you would not have been able to quickly done it unless you had all this mastery behind it.
Exactly.
So that's what people are really paying for. And that's why
that's the thing you really bring up. And something independent businesses, I don't call us self-employed. We're independent businesses. We were, everyone granted $1,200 to go create something of your own. You would be an independent business. It's time.
Yeah. Time is like against you. Time is your biggest. I really think that is time, and I'm not, hey, my mom will test and chat. I'm not the best at time management. It is always a struggle. I've always been that one kid that's always running late, always running at the bus, always running behind, always the last person to get off everywhere. And but it's really like getting to figure out your own personality, your own willing, what works for you. What there's no way you're going to do, you're trying to negotiate with yourself and try to figure out what's the best system for yourself. It's something that, you can, I could check out or read through all the KonMari methods and all the kind of stuff like that. But in the end, I have to find something that kind of fits and works for me. Right. And I've been getting a lot better with it's just kind of trial and error and figuring out, okay, this works for me. This doesn't, I got to let it go.
Right. And, for me, I like to plan every little detail. I've got it into a time schedule. This is when this goes. This is when that goes. Joe's a different type of worker. He likes to have it up against the wall to work it out. And then be like, okay, fine. Here's stuff. Get it done when you get to it. And he's always saying, I'm sorry behind. I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for that. And it's like, no. You work your way. I work my way. I like deadlines. I like focus. You like creativity. And I think that's a lot of hard time for people to get sometimes, is that you work differently. It's like your husband. I'm quite sure there is somewhere in his brain a switch that'll flip on and he will start 600 hours, 400 hours, this.
Yeah, he has a whole schedule.
Yeah.
Everything. He says, I'm going to stream here to here, here to here. He's got it all scheduled out, and everybody knows when he's going to be, if he's like 5 minutes late getting in the stream. He apologized. He feels bad. People are like, no, it's okay, cool. You know, I mean, you know,
Right.
But me, I'm like, you know,
I'm in a mood to paint, so I'm going to flip on the camera.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's like,
oh yeah, and well, part of it for me is also just being in IT. Is I can plan out a gorgeous day, a beautiful day, a wonderful day. It would be a magical symphony of Swiss movement,
Mm-hmm.
and someone calls me at 8:05.
yeah,
And
totally,
boom,
yeah.
totally gone. It was a lovely plan. It was a beautiful plan. The plan was great. Now let's throw that into the trash can and start from here because this takes precedence. And I used to have that at work a lot. Is go in and have this lovely idea what my day was going to be, and 5 minutes to 8 my phone rings at my desk, and hey, the server won't let me log in, and I walk into the server room and it's because it crashed.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're going to be a good 45 minutes getting this up. So that client call that I was supposed to have made at 8:30, that a lot of things can suddenly, like, that is not my priority. Like, I don't care about that client right now.
Well,
like, that can't matter.
Well, the reason why I mostly work in acrylic and watercolor right now is because, I mean, I learned on painting on oils in college, but I have 2 cats and a then 3-year-old when I started painting again, and 7-year-old still, and so if acrylics, I can set up quickly and I can take down quickly. And if there's a mess happens, like a cat walks across something or a kid knocks something over or run, and I can fix it really quick. I can clean it up. Oils are a little bit, so that's one thing that I've kind of learned to work through the flow. Okay, I can work with acrylics quickly. I can pull it up and, I can be more spontaneous with it. Whereas like oils, you have to be a little more planning. And I've tried to do that and I just, it just doesn't work out. Acrylics just kind of work more with my groove. And before I went off on a tangent about the business license thing. What I was saying is when I started out, I didn't have a business license. I just, declared things as personal income, that sort of stuff. And then it was only like the last 2 years that I got a business license. And at least in the state of West Virginia, I think it only cost me about anywhere between $30, $40 to get. And
like 30 minutes. Literally.
Yeah, I did it online.
30 minutes. Yeah, online.
Yeah, I did online. It took 2 weeks for them to get it to me in the mail, but
well, they let you print the documents there, so if you have to have them, you can do them.
Yeah, but you still get the numbers. That's all the banking.
People always want to like do all the, we have to have C Corp. No, you're not there yet.
Just get a little business license, LLC. That's all you need. And you don't even have to get it immediately. I mean, if you're not making a lot of money per year, if you're making under 600 or, you'll be fine. Don't stress it. Don't stress it, and it's you're not going to make enough to really have to pay taxes on it anyway when you declare it. It's kind of,
part there is, making sure you keep track of your real expenses.
Yeah. I have an app, the Intuit QuickBooks app for self-employed, and that even keeps track of your mileage. You can declare where if you drove somewhere, if it was for business, you can swipe one way for business, one way for personal, and you can swipe and categorize. You sync it up with your PayPal and your bank accounts and all that stuff. And as things come down, you categorize it as as business income or personal expenses or business expenses and all that. And so, and it even gives you an estimate of what your quarterly taxes might be.
Right.
If you pay quarterly taxes.
So. Well, that's the other thing is make sure to either pay quarterly or yearly taxes, but realize that unless you're doing major, like $50,000 in receipts a year, $200,000 in receipts a year, The government doesn't care. We recently, with one of our businesses, had a problem with the tax department. Here's the problem. You can pay your taxes online for a convenience fee of $15.
Yeah.
Our taxes were $6.43. They said, wait to the next quarter.
Yeah, just wait. You know, this is when you're that small of a fry, the government is, you know, not that crazy on you. You know, as long as you get it paid eventually.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, and as long as you keep track of it and things like that, and that does kind of come up, and that actually came up for my business, because sometimes money can be sporadic, with mine especially because right now one of the biggest things I do is I have one, you know, so to speak, like I have the one client that is a given monthly payment. But then I have another client that, like, it can take me 3 to 4 months just to end up invoicing them. Because sometimes when they call me, it starts a process and it's a really long project. So like I start that invoice in like March and I may not actually send it until, you know, August. Because there were so many parts. And then, of course, it has to go through their financial processes and get a check cut and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, yeah, I'm doing this on cash basis of when I get the money, because otherwise I will go broke paying the taxes on that invoice because it may not even be this year.
Yeah.
Like, project to project.
Yeah, so unless you're making enough to, like, you know, to like it actually be like more than you would make minimum wage at a minimum wage job, you know, don't stress things too much. Don't panic because I was totally panicking, stressing myself off over taxes the first couple of years of trying to do, you know, when I was no longer on a W-2 and I was just on, you know, doing this Form C, and I was like, well, you know, and I finally kind of learned the hard way of the middle ground of dealing with things, and that it's not that complicated as you think it is, and it's not that bad, you know, and it's so take it from me, you know, so of my 4 years of anxiety, panic over taxes, that it's don't panic. So
right, and it's like with Joe, you know, when we set his business up, he was all nervous. You know, I do my taxes by TurboTax. Yeah. I handle the state, the estimated, all that, and I'm looking at him going, "All right."
Well, that's been a recurring. Like, that's even a personal like tax thing. Like, I will sit there, I can put all my data in, I can feel really confident at that data. But when I got to hit that submit button, every single year it would happen to me is I get, like, just being a W-2 employee, like I get my little form, I plugged all my numbers in, like 2 days after I got my form. And then it was April 15th at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
And I'm having to phone a friend. And I'm not kidding. My friend Sherry had to do this more than once for me.
Yeah.
Is because it's 11 o'clock on April 15th. And I'm going, I just need you to come over here and hit the button. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I can't do it. Like, I'm about to have a nervous breakdown. Like, I can't do this without liquid courage, and I can't handle alcohol. So I just need you to come over and press the button.
Right. The button for it.
And she did. Like, that's how I paid. Like, my taxes got submitted for a couple of years. Because I just couldn't do it. I was about to fall apart. And it's like, I'm literally doing data entry. And it was the same for the business license. It's like, here's everything you need. I'm going to go take a drive.
And also, I've noticed that the more I delve myself into the nitty gritty business stuff and start worrying. The more I worry about the business stuff, the harder it is for me to create. You know, because the more anxiety, unless I can, you get, and it just starts building. At least for me, the worries start piling up and start building, and I get those tension headaches, and just I'm all and I'll just tightened up, and I can't. It's just like, I can't paint. There's no time to paint. Until finally I force myself. It's like, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna paint. Like the first time I actually had a chance, like I forced myself to paint, was I told Cullen that I was gonna paint something small for the PPD, because I do that every year. They do like a raffle, and I sat down. It was the night before that I painted it, because I got this is mom take a test. I came down. Munchkin went up and played with Grandma, and I sat down. I pulled out my little tackle box with all my little tiny mini paints. And I had my little 5x7, and because I love to do my little itty bitty painting committee painting, and I just sat down and I zen and I painted it. I just let it flow, and man, I felt amazing. I felt so much better, because that's what painting does for me. It is my therapy. And it just and I was able and the painting turned out great, and that's usually my best paintings. Is when I do that, when I'm not painting something specific for somebody or specific commission. Just painting for myself, and I'm painting what I want, and just whatever comes into my head, and what because that's how the koi and dragon stuff came about. I mean, that's how that painting right there with the dragon in the cave came about. It was just me getting an idea in my head and just letting myself paint just to paint. And those paintings end up being my best sellers.
Right. And let's take a moment and kind of cover a lot of things that we never thought we would be in business about. My business in general, no. I was going to be a nurse for 32 years, retire, move somewhere hot, and be done with it. So the psychic business, the jewelry design business, the web design business, the social media project manager business was never within my sphere. The quilting, never within my sphere. YouTube, never within my sphere. Podcast hosting, never within my sphere. These are all things that have been created out of me going, what the hell? Someone is YouTubing their life and their favorite products and making a gazillion dollars.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a brave new world. Once like 2000 hit and everything went crazy. Seriously, like when I went into college for a graphic design degree, the average graphic designer was coming out of college, landing a $60,000 a year job, $60K a year job beginning. And by the time, while I was in college, the Art Institute of blah, blah, blah popped up everywhere. It's like, you can get a graphic design degree in 2 years, so, and all these fine arts and fine degree, and they were for cheap, and they were like, so all these like people getting these crap, little degrees that were like super basic and weren't like, the full encompassing. And meantime, digital was changing, web design was coming up, all this stuff was coming up that the colleges could not really, pivot, and get their curriculum up, to match what the demand was.
At the time, there was no degrees.
No.
I have never took a web design class. I have never took a social media class.
They didn't exist when I was
They
in college.
don't exist. Social media is just now becoming something. I'm one of the bootstrappers that came up out of that time period when it's like, oh, this is HTML. Okay. HTTP / / hyperlink this.
Well, I mean, I shared a apartment with my brother who's also going to the same college I was at the time. And he was in the computers and, you know, internet and all that kind of stuff. And I was in art. And that's what it used to be. It used to be separate. Graphic designers did the design part. They handed it over to the web developer team and the web developer implemented it. But by the time I graduated, they went the graphic designers to also know how to code. And the graphic design department wasn't teaching it. And another thing is like all the fine art part, because I was also taking fine art classes as well. They were all like into like showing you how to do the art, but there were no classes on business and how to market yourself, because they just assumed that you were going to put together your portfolio and then you were going to submit it and get it into galleries through New York and all this kind of stuff. And so they were trying to prepare you to have this certain style, this particular type of art that all the hotsy-totsy galleries in the big, you know, went after. And but they didn't actually like teach you how to like survive on your own and build your following and build, you know, be your own artist, because that was no, that's not real art.
You don't do
We're
that.
still stuck in the old days.
Right.
And
you
so,
know, and like Joe coming up, you know, he went to full IT school. He is a mastermind of it. And
well, and when I went in, like you definitely struck a nerve for me. I remember the freshman experience, and because I was an out-of-state student, University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And so that immediately there's a surcharge for being out of state.
Yeah.
And like having that moment of I've got to take out how much in loans a year to get this degree, with them also commenting the fact that, well, yeah, but you're going into IT, the starting salary is 70. Like you're going to come out of this at 75,000 a year easily. And so that helps you swallow that pill of like, okay, I'm going to take out like $50-some thousand in loans, you know, but it's going to be worth it because, you know, it's going to be great. And this was early 2000 or 2000, early 2000s, I'm getting my degree. By the time I graduated my first job, I was happy when they offered me 30.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, sold.
And part of that is because of all the because of the internet age. You have all these people in other countries that I mean, nothing wrong with that, but you know, they're living in places with lower cost of living, and so to them, 30,000 is equivalent of a 90,000 job. You know, and
and then you had a flip side in that as well, especially on the IT front. Not only did you have people that were, because we also went through that same 2-year degree process.
Yeah.
Like that smacked us really hard in the IT field.
Yeah.
ITT.
I remember those commercials that were everywhere.
Oh yeah.
ITT Tech.
Oh yeah. So well, and then a lot of other schools started popping up 2-year IT programs.
All these little private, you know, not accredited. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But they started popping up everywhere. And then you also had the .com burst. That was a bigger wave than everyone thought it would be. But one of the problems I had was I knew that web was going to be a big part of the future. Like we were sitting over here with like, you know, programming in C, JavaScript, and, you know, all these other things. You know, I'm very proficient with Office. I'm not kidding. And database administration. And I'm sitting here going, that's nice. I think we're going to have more of a web thing over here. Like this is where this is going. My degree's stuck like 10 years behind me.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things we were doing, one, were not geared towards any kind of certifications. Like they flat out told us that in the beginning is no, this program's not geared for certifications. Like you want to go get certified in A+, you want to go get this certification, Cisco, whatever.
Yeah.
Go do that on your own time. You're not getting that here. But then you kind of come out, and my degree was through a business school. So we were getting a lot of the marketing and the sales and the economics and finance and all of that at a major corporation level. And I like a lot of it wasn't built for, it was built for me to be a peon in a huge organization and understand how all these departments work together.
Yeah.
But not necessarily to go, oh, and if you want to start your own business,
yeah.
this is, you know, so a lot of that I had to kind of like shift in my head and go, okay, I see how that works. But I also saw the influence that it had with the 2-year programs, especially. And I've said it before, and a lot of people get angry when I say it, is I hate people with 2-year degrees. And I say that for a reason.
Yeah.
And it is that a lot of the programs will teach you like a one-trick pony kind of perspective.
Yeah.
Without necessarily teaching you all the things that connect to that.
Yeah.
So you get really great coders. You can get a really great database administrator. You can get a really great blah, blah, blah. But they're not able to integrate.
No.
Like, that's it. If it wasn't in the degree program, they got nothing for you.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's like on the graphic design side. Like in my degree, we did like I took 2 years, like I thought, no, 2 semesters in high school from a tech, like an actual tech school. And I learned more in those 2 years in that tech school, you know, practical things with typesetting, graphic design, and everything than I learned in in college. But one of the things is like the teacher I had, a really good teacher, where she wouldn't let us touch or look at the computers cross-eyed until we could go through the whole process of sketching things down first, you know, building, you know, she made us put together logos the old-fashioned way by cutting out the film and the celluloid, you know, and putting the layers and putting the, you know, crop marks and doing all that and setting it up for like a camera to take a picture of it pre-internet scan. You know, she made us go through all that so we could understand the process of how things used to do, you know, with you know, graphic design and how things historically to understand. So we had a better appreciation for when we did get on the computers and using the programs, but also so we understood why the software is set up the way it is, because then we can understand layers, and then, you know, and it just made us understanding that better. And a lot of the 2-year, I mean, I was friends with a guy who went through a 2-year degree, and he got a 2-year art degree, and he's working as a pastor in North Carolina, if that gives you an idea of how it is. But all they were
great running away now.
Exactly, you know, and they didn't teach him all the basic stuff. You know, he didn't understand that, you know, you got to go through and you got to do all these thumbnail sketches and work it out by hand on and then you move, you know, it's like those 2-year degrees have the machine, the computer as everything to do everything for you, as in not having you look at it as a tool. You know what I mean? You know, it's like, yeah.
Being one that's a bootstrapper, what I find, and I've seen this happen in nursing, and I see it in the IT field, they will teach you this long, complicated, took you a whole semester to learn this one thing. And by the time that it's in the workplace, it's like, no, we don't do that. We do X, Y, Z. We're done. Don't complicate it with all this extra stuff, because by the time and it's like people that want to start a business, if you go to any of the business schools, they'll say you got to write a business plan.
Yeah.
I've done that. It's somewhere over in my green monster of a file cabinet. I've been in business for going on 20 years now. I've touched it zero amount.
Yeah. It's
Well, yeah, and it can happen that way. The college I went to actually went the reverse. They actually walked us through like from the beginning. The idea that, okay, what you're learning here is how to build it from scratch. And that's not what you're going to walk into.
No.
You're also learning database at this current level. Most likely not what you're going to walk into in a business in your future. Like, this is good. Like, learn the theory. Don't get hung up on the how, which was really great for me. I understand a lot about Oracle databases, beautiful database language. But the first company I worked for, I walk in and they are on a really old mumps database system, has nothing to do with my college degree.
Yeah.
At all. Like this is a database from the 70s. Like, that's its original inception, was from the 70s. This is 2005.
Yeah.
It's had some minor improvements, not that many. But I'm sitting here and I understand enough of what it's doing that while it's not what I was trained on, like, I can start to make connections with it. And I think that is where a lot of the 2-year programs screw themselves up, is they don't teach how to make the connections. Like, and that's what I hate about them. And when I say I hate people with 2 years, that's typically where I'm at, is because
you're not hating the people. It's more like the system, the way it's set up, is not teaching them properly.
Right.
Because it comes down to
degrees.
The best things I learned from college or anywhere, even outside of the college or anything, was always how to be flexible and how to problem solve. Because if you know how to problem solve and you know how to be flexible and adjust based on what you run into, then you're going to be a lot more valuable to the people that hire you than anybody, like.
And we're seeing this in industries across the world. College degrees are going back out of fashion.
I worry about that. That's like, there's some aspects of college that I do think were very, very valuable.
Yeah.
That I don't think you can just pick up in other ways. It's not that you can't learn a skill in other ways. Like, you can totally do that. But there are thought processes that, no, I really think you need a classroom for that. Or at least understand, if you're going to go learn that skill, there's this other segment of things you're going to have to go add to that.
Yeah.
Especially within, like, I would appreciate the 2-year programs, even if they would also throw in there, hey, by the way, you might want to, like, go pick up these things in terms of theory, so that you understand how this all comes together.
I think the problem that we've dealt with is that in the past, like, 20, 30 years, there's been such a change in what's needed, in the workforce, and the traditional college, education system, they don't adjust. They can't adjust that quickly. It's, I don't begrudge them. It's just the system's set up to have this, this rock, this foundation, that's what the original does. It give you this foundation of education for your life, and then for people who needed to learn certain particular skills, then you had the trade schools, you had apprenticeships and all that kind of stuff. Well, I think in the last 30 years, it came for like, oh no, if you want to do anything in life, you have to go to college. It's like,
Mhm.
so they pushed all these people in college that didn't need it, you know, and it overloaded it. And in the meantime, you have all this changing. And so colleges are trying to change to suit all these new people coming in when it probably would have been better to prop up, you know, invest more in like the trade skills and turn things into trade skills, you know. And honestly, I think I probably would have done better if I stayed a little bit longer and did like a third year, a 13th year, you know, through the trade school before I went into college. And got more, you know, practical training down there before I went over. But I mean, hindsight's 2020. But it now the colleges are slowly starting to like get there now, you know. And trade schools are getting up there, so I think things are going to equalize and things are going to adjust, and it's going to end up being great for everybody, but it's going to be messy until it does. It's just, you're just going to deal with it.
I think it will be, but I also think that we're going to be looking at more and more of kids learning, kids moving. You know, we're seeing a lot of TikTok influencers, like all these other things that you can't be taught.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I could take a 4-year intensive art school training.
Yeah.
I am not going to be able to paint like you, ever.
Well, I mean, you know, painting's like a finger, you know, like a fingerprint, you know, essentially. Yeah. You know, it's like no matter what, you're gonna, you know, anybody can learn to paint, but
my number, but I promise you, I tried it. It doesn't work. I took this lovely class on art theory, and I literally had a teacher look at me and go, "Don't. I'll pass you if you just do not come to class."
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I took a pottery class and I dropped out of it really quickly for a reason, because the pottery wheels just no, they do not, they and me do not, they do not mix. Don't vibe. You know, I can do like 3D modeling clay. I can shape it all the time, but no, if a pottery wheel is required for me to like pass a class, oh, I'm dropping out. No.
But I think that, you know, when we get to Little Mott's generation, he's going to probably, you know, not be taking English, you know, English Literature 101 and basket weaving and gem. I think that the degree process is going to be a lot more focused on what he needs and then done with it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think with e-education opportunities, with like literally what we're in right now, I think may open up a lot of different opportunities to, so to speak, kind of take a lot of the best professors and allow for a really unique education that you're not necessarily having to have each college have its own full slate. Now, that's going to be horrible for, you know, tenured professors.
Yeah.
But I think it may do a lot of beautiful things for education of it in itself. But if those professors are aiming correctly, they may become very specific. You know, it may not be that they're just a, say, you know, legal environment of business professor. Always the professor I think of when I think of fear of education being online. I had to sign so many documents. Again, she's a lawyer. That I was not going to audio record her class. I was not going to video record her class. I was not going to post it online. I was not going to sell it. Like, she was frightened, as many educators were.
Yeah.
But I think it also allows for a lot of specialization, that instead of sitting there and, you know, having to do the all-encompassing class, that people can become very much experts in a particular aspect and be very, very useful to those trying to learn that skill in getting this from like a tribe of professors that all have very good abilities in specific points.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not like college is bad and this is bad and all that. No. This is like, I learned a lot. I always, and when I go to convention, when I used to go to conventions, and people would, young artists would asking me, advice again. It's like, if you can get into a 4-year like fine arts college, that's not going to break your bank. Don't have to get in. I don't want you to get into debt and all that kind of stuff. But try to, if you can get in and do it, please go for it, because there's a lot of, because they teach you the classics and learning all the fundamentals of figure drawing and all this kind of stuff, and that really gives you this really great foundation to then go off of, and then work with your like all the weird paintings of Picasso and all this stuff. Picasso is actually a very beautiful figure drawing. He could draw in the classic way. He learned the classic way, and then by learning those rules, he was able to break them. So, and then if you can't afford college, I mean, the great thing about this Renaissance era of the internet is there's all sorts of like programs and YouTube videos and things that you can pay for and things you get for free, that you can go out there and learn, a majority of what you need to learn. Both amateurs and people who have gone, to college.
I think we're going to see a rise also on apprenticeships.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Especially like in the art community. That used to be a big thing. In the psychic community, that used to be a big thing. Believe me, anyone wants them. I would be highly interested in people, and I think we're going to see even more of that. No, you learn by doing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I would have loved that when I was first got, in my college age. It would have been great if I could get like apprenticeship with, a painter that I really admired. Cleaning his studio and doing, and helping him get his coffee and everything in exchange for him sitting down and teaching me all his tricks that he learned over the years. And
not only that, there's a lot of things that are actual real business stuff that you need to know. Copyright of art. You've got to, for me, it's now intelligent property. Who's going to own the video when I'm dead? Those are things that aren't talked about currently that I know of in any school, because we haven't looked at the digital estate.
Oh yeah, that's it, Brave New World territory right there.
Very much Brave New World.
There's no precedent. We're all in, we're
in a new reality.
Yeah, but, we're all walking in Alaska here.
You have many hats. You're a mom, you're an artist, you're a business owner, you're a CFO of another business, you work at a library. What is your top 5 surviving the current era we're in tips for someone out there?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Number 1 is start small, don't get in over your head. It's one of the best things that I did starting out is and to start small starts to anything. Anything. You could be selling t-shirts, you could be, selling coffee or soup on the corner, whatever. When I started out, I did all the tiny local shows. I only printed what I could afford. I did $25 or less, tables and stuff. And I tested what sold, what didn't. I took notes on it. And then I went from there. I said, okay, this is not working. So, get this is working. I got some good, and test things. I just kept testing. And then I slowly grew. I had a friend who was getting into the art. She's getting in the art business, and she went big first. She bought, a wide format printer. She printed all this stuff out. She sat there and she for 2 weeks, she did nothing but paint, or do digital work and make prints. And then she spent like $250 on a table at a big anime con. And she had never tested the waters of her art to see if anybody wanted her art at all, and went there, and she spent all this money on hotels and all this stuff. She basically wiped out all her savings to do this, and she bombed like really badly. You know, she came home, she had nothing, you know, because she didn't sell anything. And I had warned her. I mean, I didn't talk to her afterwards because, you know, that's, you know, but
Salt wound, bad.
Yeah. It's just like, I mean, I hadn't even, I was like, no, don't go to these big, you know, but she thought big event, which means big money, a lot of people. But, you know, she hadn't tested it. She hadn't tested and see what art sold, what art didn't. I mean, a lot of my art that I've done recently is based off of feedback I got from people at other conventions, like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if, you know, if you had this, or what about this? And, oh, this reminds me of so-and-so. I was like, oh, okay, I got some interest in there. So then I'll do a painting maybe along that lines, you know, and stuff like that. And seriously, because if you can start as small as you can, and keep notes of that feedback and get that feedback, because then you can slowly grow. That's number one. Number two, my mom brought up eat chocolate. It's more of like, find your zen. You gotta keep yourself from being overwhelmed. That's the biggest thing, because anxiety is huge in this world. In this, you're entering a world of chaos. You know, because things, the entrepreneurship is, you know, these are deep waters. You know, you're not in the safety of a 9-to-5 job with a W-2. You're going in the new territory. It can be a little scary. You know, you need to find something to help keep you calm and keep you level, whether it be calming music to play while you're working on stuff, to making sure you take time to yourself, you know, and take a break. You're not burning yourself out, because because majority of businesses that fail is because people go all out too crazy, and they burn themselves out, and they don't get it. They don't get any, like, you know, they're not seeing any like traction or anything like that, or any success from all the stuff they've, you know, and they give up before they have time to fully like realize investment. Sometimes I think the average business expects to lose money for the first 5 years. You know,
5 to 7. Honest tragedies, pandematics, you know, all that stuff.
All that kind of thing. Oh gosh. Third, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to get in my brain of what I do that would apply to everybody else, depending on what they are.
Well, you're thinking about business. You've got other hats you wear.
Yeah, I mean, trying to balance family life and business life is really important. I can't neglect my son. You know, I can't just put him in a closet, you know, and say, you know, give him an iPad and put him in a closet and say, leave mommy alone. You know, I got to find ways. You know, I can't just ignore her. I'm also a mom.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is, don't forget you're a mom and a wife, and, you know, sometimes you have to be the boss mom, the boss wife.
Yeah. And
the husband employee and go, no, you're not. You need to go and play this new game.
Yeah, it's just like, exactly like you know, I got to motivate.
Worker, go play the game.
Yeah, it's just like, well,
I don't wanna. It sucks.
What's funny is he's told me it's like I've been in the military too long. I need orders. You need to give me orders. You know, you need to be my commanding officer and tell me what to do. Otherwise, I'll sit there like a guy and go like, you know,
yeah.
And a lot of times, like, I'll make social media posts for him. You know, I'll handle that. Like, he recently started a Patreon. Like, I'm the one who does the posts on Patreon for him. You know, and I mean, he's technically has a Twitter. I just got it set to automate it now, so it's just basically people can use Twitter to know when he's going live. But if there's anything posted, I'm the one posting that, you know, and stuff like that. And So
what
that
I
would be
find, and this is one of mine, is realize your strengths and weaknesses as a couple,
exactly, yeah.
play them all. And sometimes you have to say, I'm not mad, I just need this done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and another thing is, like, if you have kids, if you can get them involved in the business, get them involved.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, cause my son's like 7 now, you know, I was like, hey, buddy, help mommy put this together, or help mommy do this, or why don't you help mommy count this? Cause he's learning how to count. Ned, okay, let's count how many prints mommy has of each type. We were going to organize. So he's learning,
7, it's, in 2 years, he can start washing dishes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, he helps me with laundry. You know, it's getting to the point where he can go and find his laundry scattered across his room, put it all together and bring it down. And he loves, opening up the doors and putting it in, and this is like a space station. and I showed him how to work the buttons. And I still have to be the one to pour the detergent because it's a little too heavy for him, but then I let him, I'm getting involved.
Laundry pods, then he gets target practice.
Yeah. Don't put bathroom cleanup too.
But that's like, get your kid and try to teach your kids to be self-sufficient the earliest possible, because if they know how to just go and get their own food, like one of the things I'll do is I'll pre-pack his, since he can't go to school and poor kid's not being able to use his brand new Minecraft lunchbox that he picked up for school this year. So I'll pack his lunch and put it in the lunchbox ahead of time and put it in the fridge. And he knows that whenever he's hungry, he can just go and grab his lunch and sit out on the table and eat it. And he knows to put it away, and he throws everything away. And
one of my tips.
Yeah.
Because I do that for him. He has his own basket. It's Joe's lunch because he has to eat. I'm the type, I'll eat when I get hungry. He has to eat. He has to have a reminder to eat. He has his own lunchbox in the fridge. And when I go into what I call manic mode, where I'm doing 400 different things, suddenly there'll be baskets in the bottom of the refrigerator that is like fruit, sandwiches, all pre-made. It's 2 hours on Sunday, prep it up. It's all in there. And you start streamlining things.
Yeah.
So I love the lunchbox idea.
Yeah. Well, I like, another thing is, like, crock pot is your friend, like in the morning, I can get a roast or something started in the crock pot. I can go off to work at the lot. Cause right now with the way COVID, I only work 2 days at the library, but I work a full day, and so I set it in the crock pot in the morning. And a husband, he's streaming, Munchkin has his stuff on the iPad. I leave, I leave to the library. I come, I get an hour, break. So since I'm not far, I'll pop back here. I'll make sure Munchkin remembers you got your lunch in the fridge, and make sure I'll fix myself something, have a nice calming zen, then go back to the, give the Munchkin a hug, let him know, make sure everything's okay. He's got movie to watch and all this kind of thing. I go back to the library, finish it up. I come back home, dinner's ready, and we just pull open the crock pot and serve. Everybody has a nice eat, and then my husband's ready for his evening stream.
Right.
So,
and I don't know if this is a tip he's using or not. One of mine is get out of the house. For an hour, get in the car, go somewhere. Literally, we recently became a laundromat house because I value a pantry over a washer and dryer.
Yeah.
And that is my most relaxing time that I can sit and do planning or figure out problems, is when I'm doing laundry out of the house.
Well, and then there was also the fact that when we were even having that discussion is, like, I'm coming at it from a different perspective, and I'm going, I'm kind of glad because we ended up having 2 appliances die. The dryer went first, so he did this thing where he was washing clothes and had set up a clothesline or was going to go to the laundromat to dry everything.
Yeah.
but then the washer kicked the bucket like right there, like a month later. And so he starts doing the laundromat thing.
Mm-hmm.
And once a week for 3 hours, he's gone. He does the laundromat thing. He comes back. All of our clothes are done. Everything is done. And then we're good for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a week and a little change.
Mm-hmm.
If things get hectic. But what I noticed, because at one point he was like, well, I guess, we really got to get a new dryer and a new washer and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, do you really want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you remember before when we were like forgetting to move laundry from the washer to the dryer, when we were leaving clothes in the dryer so long they wrinkled, when we were rushing around before, like, I need clothes today.
Mm-hmm.
So let me quickly do a load of laundry. And now I have to stay up for like 2 hours just to get this laundry done because I have to have clothes to leave here at 8 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's 2 a.m. And do you really want to do that again? Because I think your time is better spent.
Not only that, but we were doing laundry every day.
Yeah. Versus what you can just throw into a laundromat.
Right.
Like
3 hours, I can get 3 people's laundry done in no time.
Right.
Yeah.
I love super washers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're
I mean,
a glorious thing.
It just also, like, being able to find, you got to set aside time to be your off time.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't, I mean, if you can set a day, 1 day a week, that's your relaxed day, great. If you could just set, I mean, okay, I'm just, if you can't do that, well, then just set a certain hour or a certain amount of time each day. That's your relaxed time, something.
Right. You do. Especially when you begin living at work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. And I think that's a big struggle that, like, we've gone through because we both have home-based businesses.
Mm-hmm.
We're now in the middle of COVID, so all those lovely trips we used to do that got us out of the house, or at least one of us, to get that time apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those things have all kind of shut down, and it's like this 24/7, and it's like, I don't know if you're my boyfriend right now. I don't know if you're my coworker right now. I don't know if I'm being sexually harassed at work right now. I'm not real sure what's going on.
Well, like, it's like this little space is like my little, like, art space. I'm trying to, like, is separate from the rest, rest of the place. And I'm not perfect at this. There's times where, like, I'll set the laptop in another room and prop my feet up and work out there and stuff like that. But I'm trying, the more I try to have a specific area that I work, it kind of helps separate, because I do, the anxiety does rise when you're doing work at every area of the house. There's no part of the house that's just your house.
Right. But that's also probably a good tip for now at home teaching on at-home school, is to have a school spot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and a lot of it's boundaries is what it ultimately becomes, is those spaces become boundaries that are like, hey, this is a workspace. I'm working. That's a boundary. Like, this isn't playtime.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure with a mini-mot,
Yeah.
it definitely becomes like part of that one learning process of, like, okay, mommy's in her, workspace. She's working.
Yeah. I mean, he's still allowed to come and ask me a question if he needs something. That's fine. But, like, he can't, like, hang out and interrupt me while I'm trying to do something. He kind of understands this. Like, it has to be important. If he needs something, like something's wrong with the TV, okay, I'll get up, take a break, help him out, that sort of thing. But he's learned that, like, there's boundaries. Like, when he was really little and he couldn't really understand those boundaries, then I'd set up stuff for him to do next to me. Like he'd have the little paint by water stuff, or or he'd have some Legos, or something.
Or some t-shirts, because that's one of the coolest things I've seen you put out.
Oh yeah,
was your colored t-shirts.
Oh yeah. See, I made those, after he was born, because I wanted something for him to be able to do, and I recognized by having a child that that's something that other parents wanted for their kids.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, was the coloring t-shirts. And you were ahead of the curve of adult coloring.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was little and I decorated t-shirts. We did it like in Girl Scouts and stuff, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, well, maybe it'd be nice to have like an actual pattern to start with, like an outline, that people can color, kids can color however they want. And then the problem is like I've gotten a whole lot more requests for adult size t-shirts. And that's one of the things, like the business, I haven't been able to expand in that area yet because I don't have enough capital to invest in another run of t-shirts.
Right.
So I'm kind of working on ideas to maybe have smaller, cheaper, runs that I can afford.
Or have a direct print, which, by the way, give your web address where people can find you.
Okay. My web address is, you can find me on any social media at Mottfolio, Mottfolio. And my graphic design business, you can contact me at mottfolio.com. And then mottfineart.com is where I have my online store. And then, of course, you can find me at Etsy. It's at mottfolio.etsy. I'm trying to make it easy for folks.
Right.
That's why I don't use everything signed Mott. I mean, Mottesheard is a bit of a doozy. So everything's Mottfolio.
My tip is you develop a brand name and get it on everything. Any social media, I don't care if you use it or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It may take you a couple years to figure out what your brand's going to be. I mean, you may start with one thing and then you may find, well, I'm more of this, and you pivot, and it's putting yourself out there helps you figure out who you are, essentially.
Right. But example, I currently don't use TikTok because I haven't figured out what I'm doing with it yet. Mm-hmm. But there is an Aeson Knight TikTok. Every social media, everything, get your name early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Plug it in.
Also look into names before you really commit to that.
Yeah, you might go to GoDaddy and start typing stuff in. The ideas you have, start typing this in, see if they're available as a domain.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely go see if that business already exists. Like, that was one of the things I found out with Mystic is there is another Mystic Computers. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, we are nowhere near each other, and we're actually slightly different. So, two great things. But it does mean that because of the way all the web presence is set up, all of that is actually very different. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't have that same overlap. Then that's a big part of it, is making sure you don't. Sometimes it's just making sure that you're not going to use for another business and get their problems or get a lot of really upset people. So that's also can be a really big part of the situation, is making sure you're not an unfortunate near neighbor. The best way I can put it is kind of oh God, who is the guy? There was this skit recently. I think it was SNL did. It was this really horribly or unfortunately named person that someone else with the same name was big in the news at the moment for a horrible scandal. Mm-hmm. And it's you don't want to be that business that's just a little too close.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And kind of one thing that leads me to is one last thing is don't beat yourself up. You're going to make mistakes.
Mhm.
Just factor that into your business plans, is that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to try things. They're going to fail. That there really is such a thing as failure way to the top, because just make sure you learn from them,
Right.
because you don't know what works and what doesn't work until you make those mistakes.
Right.
And there's no golden, guru out there that you're going to get enough. There's no way you're going to get enough advice to like avoid making any mistakes. It's just
Right. And my other thing is, and I love how you've done it. Don't quit your day job.
Yeah.
Don't quit your day job until you have to.
There is no shame of having a side hustle, and of having it as your side hustle or having it as your hobby until
Right.
I mean, I went full time with it because I had no choice. It was like things crazy, but the library is great because they're flexible hours that I can work around with my son. I can work around with my business, and it provides me a steady base. So when things crazy happens like COVID and my show revenue drops, at least I know I have at least yay much with library.
Yep.
So, and that saved, that kept things from getting really bad. It was like we were able to survive.
Right.
So,
well, let's before we go and do our Patreon, talk about your Patreon.
Oh, I do have a Patreon. I just have one patron. Shout out to Jason if you're listening. Love you, man. He's basically on essentially the artist retainer level. So he pays me a month, so much a month, and then I always guarantee to give him, discount. He gets discounts on any job he wants. And I'm currently kind of working on restructuring it, because sometimes I have this weird mix of people that, come on me with graphic design and commissions, and some people that just want to support my art and my business and stuff like that. So I'm always encouraging people to give me feedback of what they would like to see that would be value to them if they support me. And I really appreciate it. Heck, if you don't have to even contribute to my Patreon, just follow and send me feedback. And I just love talking with people. I love chatting about art. I love talking about art. I think that's a given.
Yeah. No, we didn't notice at all.
Your other Patreon.
Oh, yes. You can support my husband, which also supports me because I run it all.
It's your business.
Yeah. Is his Patreon, my Patreon is Mottfolio, but his Patreon is the Grumpy Tank Army, because he's Sergeant Grumpy Tank, or Ghost _Prime is his Twitch handle, but most of the social media as the Grumpy Tank. Have him on Twitter and Patreon. So if you search Grumpy Tank Army, you should be able to find him. He does streaming. His streams are pretty much a talk show. A lot of the games that he plays, like Space Engineers and X4 and stuff, are all games that he can almost do autopilot and pay attention and talk to people in the chat and just have conversations. So much like it's very coffee shop like. We're just talking about everything. He kind of has it as a safe, haven for people to just come in and relax and just get away from the crazy, and just that, essentially, I guess a gamer version of Zen. So,
right,
yeah, and he has pretty well. This is the hasn't, he's been doing pretty well for the Patreon, and it got a lot of. He's been very surprised with the amount of support, but he's put a lot of work into it, and I think my business in turn is really helped.
Right.
Supporting him, I've gotten a lot of business through it because people have been able to get to know me through the stream, and I've almost become a personality, too. So
yeah. Well, and whereas manage and run Unbuff Gamer, which Grumpy Tank and Unbuff Gamer need to get together, and
Yeah, and
I
maybe
think
do
it
a
would
thing.
benefit the two.
Yeah, and I would be remiss. I would get in trouble if I don't also mention, that having a supportive family, especially a supportive mother, love you, mom, to really help you in your business and be supportive of your business and deals. One of the things is because she paid all my tuition in college and everything. She gets first dibs on all my art. So Aeson and my mom compete with each other over who gets, which dragon and koi painting.
Yeah, I was going to bring up you forgot a Patreon. She only gave you life.
Yeah,
because I saw her comment and I was like, yeah, you might want to.
Yeah, oh no. My mother is your family is always your first patron, and so that's why she has the highest tier of all, which is I gave birth to you tier. So pretty much she has, I'm her indentured servant for helping her with everything she needs for the.
Well, you're going to have to come back, and maybe we can get Grumpy Tank and Unbuff Gamer together to come to the table, and it would be really cool for the non-gamers to talk with the gamers, and maybe the gamers can do their own little speech together, because we need to get Unbuff to the point of streaming. We've got to record. Now we just got to get him to streaming.
Oh, we good. He's got some really crazy. I mean, you could probably bind him for so many stories from Iraq, pre-Iraq to his Navy days. Everything. He's definitely he's a bit of a storyteller, and I think that's what really benefits his streams is when he does story time. Yeah.
All right. Well, have a great night, Emily, and
thank you very much.
Bye, darling.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, Vanna, you're on.
All right. Well, one more Patreon list for this evening. So, of course, we want to thank our Patreons, Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, and the Crystal Lotus Shop, which is located at 89 Old Main Plaza in St. Albans. So if you're in the area, make sure you stop in or visit their website. If you'd like to learn more about Aeson and I and the Psychic Coffee Shop or Mountain Bears, make sure to check out PCSPnetwork.com, where you can also learn more while you're there on becoming a Patreon and all the wonderful benefits that includes.
Yes, and speaking of those, we are getting your benefits out probably within the next 2 days. Sorry it is delayed. I had dental surgery, and nothing leaves my office without me signing it off. Yeah, I'm that left brain at some things. That was Joan Rivers' business advice was you sign your own checks. You sign your own agreements. You review and read everything that you put out, and I will always do that. So yeah, the changes and getting things put together is my holdup, and I'm sorry for my patrons that I were behind on that, but that will be going out hopefully within the next 2 days, guys. Thank you guys for being our Patreons and understanding that, when, one of the team is down, it kind of slows everything down.
Absolutely. But alrighty, well, that's been a long, almost 3 hours. This is a double show.
Yeah.
Yes, double show.
Yeah.
I love it.
Right. And patrons, let us know if you like these double shows, because sometimes we can do them if we've got the opportunities. Definitely. We loved our author on. Loved his book. Again, that is Reclaiming Your Power to a Creative Life. It is on Amazon. And their information is coming out in the newsletter about all our authors, because I think we're booked all month with at least an author spot. And I'm starting to book November. Miss Heather, please get Emily on the stick and get with me so that we can get you booked to come on. And we can talk about your book and your art, because you are a string artist, and different things that you've gone through, because you've had a lot of life changes, and you've been very much a topic. All right, Mika's loving the double show. All right, guys. Good night. We will see you Friday. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
See you for Mountain Bears.
Yes. Have a great night, y'all. Bye,
Good
y'all.
night. Bye-bye.